2 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. It is a beautiful, beautiful spring Thursday outside. It's about 70 degrees and the sun is shining. We are out and about. We are up north. Where are my Ogden people at? That's right. My Ogden people, come on out to Wasatch Front Kia, Riverdale Road. You can't miss us because there's a gigantic gorilla right out front. So if you're confused as to where we're at, just look for the gorilla. The address is 770 West Riverdale Road up here in Ogden. It is their annual Memorial Day tent sales event. I've been coming up here long enough that my computer actually automatically connects to their Wi-Fi. So that's great. 4 days only, okay, starts today, goes through Monday. They've got great deals on vehicles priced to move for mom, for dad, for your 16-year-old that's going to bang up the car a little bit. And today we are giving away a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. It's right inside of the showroom. It is a gorgeous cooler. Definitely high value there. Come on by, enter to win, and we will draw a name right before we get out of here at 6 o'clock to hook you guys up. Tomorrow they're giving away a GMG Ledge Grill. On Saturday it's a big screen TV. And on Monday, $500 cash. This is a event they do every single year at Wasatch Front Kia up here in O-Town, 770 West Riverdale Road. Come on by and say what's up. All right, how are you? Happy Thursday. A lot to do on the program today. The Western Conference Finals got rather interesting last night. And now injuries kind of unfortunately the storyline that everybody's talking about. The San Antonio Spurs are already without De'Aaron Fox. And now they might be without Dylan Harper, who left the game last night with a hamstring injury. So we'll get into that conversation today about what comes next and what is a very, very compelling series. And tonight it is the turn of the Eastern Conference where the New York Knicks, after outscoring the Cleveland Cavaliers 44-11 to finish the game a couple of nights ago, back in action at Madison Square Garden to try to go up 2-0 on Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So NBA playoff basketball, of course, a lot going on. There's some off-season college football storylines, namely the Big Ten and Fox fighting against SEC and ESPN for the 24-team or 16-team playoff format. So we'll get into some college football on the show today. The world of the professional golf of PGA Tour is looking at the Byron Nelson this week at TPC Craig Ranch in McKinney, Texas, where Brooks Koepka has the lead at 8 under par. Brooks has been roping the golf ball. When he putts, man, he's as good as anybody out there. So Brooks Koepka, after making his return to the PGA Tour, has the lead as round one is in progress. So we'll keep you up to date there. One more match for Real Salt Lake before the 2-month World Cup break, where MLS will take a couple of months off. Saturday, 2:30 Mountain Time on Apple Television. Some bad news for the U.S. men's national team. Chris Richards has torn some ligaments in his ankle, one of the best center backs on the roster, and a player that captained the U.S. men's national team against Portugal. So will he even be selected? You feel bad for this kid. Last World Cup cycle, he had to miss it because of a knee injury. A lot of conversation about Xavier Gozo maybe getting a late call-up. Friend of the program, Dax McCarty, the latest MLS personality to make that plea. And, of course, Diego Luna as well. We are 5 days away from the announcement of Mauricio Pochettino's U.S. men's national team side. We will get to some RSL storylines on the show today and get you ready for the final match before the World Cup break. Of course, one eye on June the 23rd, where the NBA draft will take place, where our local pro basketball team, the Utah Jazz, will draft second in that draft cycle. Of course, a ton of rumors every single day. We are going to have to just wait until the 23rd to see how this goes down, but we'll get into some draft stuff on the show today. All right. Our first guest, as we are live today, as I said, at Wasatch Front Kia for their Memorial Day tent sales event, will be Jason Christ, the president of soccer for both Real Salt Lake and the red-hot Utah Royals. Mina Tanaka getting a call-up after another goal for her. The Royals are unbeaten in 8 matches. So we will bring Jason Christ right off the top today. Richard Smith he's a mensch, okay? He's a mensch for you Northeast folk. He is making the drive up as we speak to the Memorial Day tent sale event up here at Wasatch Front Kia. Maybe Smitty's going to grab a Kia or maybe a Telluride. Smitty's going to join us live on site to talk some NBA playoffs and some Jazz basketball. Your NBA Daily Assist is dropped by Dave McMiniman on the program today. And then TV voice of the Utah Jazz, Craig Bolerjack, will stop by as well. So busy show. We'll do a little sports court as we do every Thursday, a little bit later on with our friends Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. So Jason Christ, Richard Smith, Dave McMiniman, Craig Bolerjack, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, on this lovely May Thursday afternoon. Happy Thursday to you. You are almost to that weekend. And about, 30 miles, we'll call that southeast of us, is where we find the producer of this program, Porter Larson. How are you, young man?
I am well, Spencer. Doing well back here at the studio. Glad to be on and talking some. I'm assuming mostly NBA playoffs today, but we'll zoom out from there as well.
What is your confidence level in our New York Knicks tonight?
I'm confident. I think the way that if you were Cleveland, the way you lost game one is, that's got to be tough to shake. So I think the Knicks should come in and try to continue not only that momentum, but also kind of that strategy that they employed, which is attack James Harden on the defensive end, make Cleveland really work to get things offensively, right? OG Anunoby, as I mentioned before game one, is a huge X factor in this game. So to see him healthy and playing in game one was big, and that made me just a little bit more confident going in. I'm pretty confident. I think we should hold serve at home and go from there.
There you go. So Knicks Cavs, world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, game 2 tonight. NBA playoffs have been a lot of fun. Love me some spring basketball. Hopefully our local team will be part of spring basketball next year. All right, Jason Christ will be our first guest today. But before Jay stops by on this Thursday afternoon, courtesy of our good friends at IFA Country Stores, it's time now for your opening tip. Now, I want to let you know, with our good friends at IFA Country Stores, you can check them out, IFA.coop or anywhere along the local spots. I'll try to get some IFA copy later on. But let's get into some stuff here on the show today. Live today at Wasatch Front Kia. Jason Christ will join us in just a little bit. Richard Smith, Dave McMiniman, Craig Bolerjack. I want to give a shout-out to Ace Bailey. It was announced yesterday, right as we were signing off air, that Ace Bailey has been named to the 2025-2026 NBA All-Rookie second team. Ace, of course, wasn't playing a ton to start the year, but was able to get some playing time in the second half of the season when the Utah Jazz were trying to kind of develop some of those young players. If I could get that music down, that would be great out of my ear. So shout out to Ace Bailey for getting second team All-NBA. Now, the Western Conference Finals took an interesting twist last night. I don't think anybody's surprised to see the Oklahoma City Thunder win the game, but the way that they won the game was some pretty smart adjustments by Mark Daigneault at that OKC staff. Isaiah Hartenstein in game one guarded Victor Wembanyama for 3 plays. Last night, Isaiah Hartenstein was your primary defensive player on Victor Wembanyama for 47 plays. He only played 12 minutes, Isaiah did in game one. He got 27 minutes last night. He had 13 boards. He had a bunch of massive offensive rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds overall. San Antonio was dominating the offensive glass. So Hartenstein, everyone's going to talk about Chet, a much better game from Chet. I would say a tepidly improved performance from Chet. He was better than he was in game one. They're probably going to have to get more from him if they want to win the series. But, Shea looked like Shea. If you've been watching OKC for the past few years, what SGA did last night isn't surprising. Much more efficient than he was in game one. Was able to find some space away from those San Antonio defenders. He was 12 of 24. Had 30 points, 9 assists, a couple of block shots, and only 1 turnover as your primary ball handler in 38 minutes to get some of those pit bulls. Shea with a nice night. Alex Caruso, who has a ring and is probably the most veteran experienced player on this roster, had another nice night. 17 points, 3 of 4 from 3, 5 assists, 3 boards for Caruso. Played some really good defense on the other end. And look, They march these dudes in, and they just don't miss a beat. So, of course, everyone's talking today that Jalen Williams, J-Dub from OKC, had to leave the game after 7 minutes, and he was holding that left hamstring that kept him out of the series against the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's not nothing. Obviously, that's a big deal. He's probably their second-best player. But whether it's Caruso or Isaiah Joe or Cason Wallace or Jared McCain or A.J. Mitchell, like Mark Daigneault has 4 or 5 wings that he can just kind of march in. And they're not J-Dub, but they all play in a way where you don't necessarily have to rush him back. And I thought specifically last night, A.J. Mitchell and Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace came up with some massive defensive plays. He knocked down 4 of 6 from 3. And after getting, minimal performance from their bench in game 1, Oklahoma City had 57 bench points last night. Now, on the other side, here's the big concern. If you're the San Antonio Spurs or hoping that the Spurs will win. Hartenstein did a good job on Wembanyama. They continued to throw different looks at him. 8 of 16, 21 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks. I mean, he's going to stuff the stat sheet no matter what. But they made him a little bit more uncomfortable. He had 4 turnovers, and he simply needs more than 16 shots. They're going to have to find a way to kind of force feed the action. But the big concern is Dylan Harper now is out, and we don't know when he's going to be back. He had a hamstring issue. So De'Aaron Fox, who most people believe might be their second best or second most important player, I think is how I would put that because of his veteran presence and his experience in the league. He is out with an ankle injury that he suffered against Minnesota. So he missed game 1, then he missed game 2. And Dylan Harper, after a brilliant game 1, the first playoff start in the history of his career as a rookie, was off to a good start last night, but he had to leave with a hamstring, and that left Stephon Castle as your primary ball handler. They went with Jordan McLaughlin off the bench. I don't know that he's ready for this. He did hit a couple of threes, had a really costly turnover down the stretch. But if Harper and Fox are going to be out, and Stephon Castle is going to be your primary ball handler, it's pretty simple. First of all, I love Stephon Castle. Coming out of UConn, I was hoping the Jazz are going to be able to find a way to grab him. Of course, he went earlier than the Jazz were drafting. That was the draft they took Taylor Hendricks, who, of course, is with the Grizzlies now. Stephon Castle had a dunk last night that if you were watching it live, you probably jumped off your couch. But he now has 20 turnovers in the first 2 games of the series. And look, he is not a lead guard. He is not designed to be a primary ball handler. Their 2 lead guards are De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle. And if those 2 aren't going to be available moving forward, Oklahoma City might take this thing in 5 or 6. I'm not kidding. For all the brilliance of Victor Wembanyama, they have to have either Dylan Harper or De'Aaron Fox healthy. If they're without both those 2 players, that is going to be problematic, certainly, for the San Antonio Spurs. So Oklahoma City bounces back. If you're San Antonio, you head home with the split. That's always the goal. You now have home court advantage. And as they go back to San Antonio, Oklahoma City is going to have to find a way to grab one there. And if San Antonio's without their 2 primary ball handling lead guards, I think Oklahoma City has the advantage, even if Jalen Williams can't play. All right, tonight, game 2, New York, Cleveland, Madison Square Garden, world's most famous arena. Knicks Cavs, after a historic comeback in game 1, where the Knicks were able to outscore Cleveland 44-1 to end that game after going down 22. In the previous 595 playoff games, teams that were down 20-plus in the fourth quarter were 1-594. The last time the Knicks came back from a 20-point deficit in the postseason was 1970. In fact, 1970 is one of the 2 years where the New York Knicks were able to win an NBA championship. So, look, ultimately what New York did down the stretch, so this is going to be on Cleveland, and this is going to be on Kenny Atkinson to see what they will do, as New York may have unlocked something during that massive comeback. And the offensive attack was pretty simple. It was, okay, whoever James Harden is guarding, it's your turn to score. They're going to try to force switches to make Harden guard Jalen Brunson specifically. If you are Cleveland, you have to make sure your primary defender on Jalen Brunson is either Dean Wade or Donovan Mitchell. You've got to keep Harden off of him. But what New York did down the stretch is after Brunson got cooking, and of course they did everything they could to make sure Harden wasn't guarding Jalen Brunson, Harden started taking turns on Mikal Bridges. So they said, okay, Mikal, you go ahead. All right, or OG Anunoby or whoever it is. I really give Mike Brown a lot of credit for going with Landry Shamet down the stretch instead of Deuce McBride. I really love Miles McBride. He's a great bench player. But Donovan was cooking him, and he was not ready for the moment. Shamet came in and gave Mike a really solid 17 minutes, scored 9 points, hit all 3 of his threes, and turned Donovan's water off. Donovan had 26 points through 3 quarters and finished with 29. His last bucket was with about 10 minutes left in the fourth. So, of course, with Sammy Merrill on the roster and Donovan Mitchell on the roster, I'd like to see Cleveland do well, but my heart says New York. So we get game 2 tonight. All right, we'll catch a break. We're live today at the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event at 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. Come on by and say hi. Enter to win a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. We have an enter to win box in front of us. We'll draw a name before we get out of here about 6 o'clock tonight. Coming up on the other side, we'll switch gears. We're back to NBA playoffs and some Jazz stuff with some NBA guests later on. But one more match for RSL before we say goodbye to MLS soccer for a couple of months. Jason Christ will join us on the other side right here on ESPN 700. Where are my O-Town people? Where are my Ogden folk? Come on by and say what's up. It is the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event at 770 West Riverdale Road. They do it every year. This weekend, I've been coming up here for years. There's a large monkey out front, not a real one. It's inflatable, so you can't miss us. You can enter to win a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler, and we will draw a name before we get out here at about 6 o'clock. All right, one more game for RSL. Before we say goodbye to MLS for a couple of months, it is Minnesota. Our next guest, the president of soccer on a Thursday, Jason Kreis. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Spence. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate the time. I have a random question for you out of the gates because I was thinking about you earlier today. Not in a weird way. I was reading, there's an article up on ESPN.com about Steve Kerr. And Hunter Thompson wrote it, I believe, if I remember that correctly. I might get that name wrong. But it's a long read. And essentially, you know who Steve Kerr is, right, Jason?
I do, yes. Thank you, Spence.
Okay. Well, I mean, some soccer people only know soccer. You know that.
Not me. I'm as well versed as any.
I know you are. Anyway, it's a long piece following Steve Kerr basically for the last year, where he thought he was going to be. It's Wright Thompson. Hunter Thompson, obviously, I think he's dead. But anyway, Wright Thompson followed Steve all year long in anticipation of kind of breaking the news that he was going to retire at the end of the year. And Steve has decided he's coming back with a 2-year extension to coach the Golden State Warriors. And it's all about how hard it is to walk away from the game and the sport that you love. Now, you're not doing that. You're still very much involved. But throughout the course of your journey from player to coach and then coach to executive, you know, when it comes to the start of another soccer season, what's it like to continue to stay in the sport that essentially has become your identity? And can you even fathom what it would be like to approach the start of a soccer season and not be part of a team?
Man, there's a lot to unpack with that question, Spence. Especially as somebody that's had the trials and tribulations that I have had in the last 10 years, ever since leaving Real Salt Lake, going to New York City and getting summarily fired there after one season, and then Orlando City thinking you're going to be a part of a long-term project and you lose your job after just over 2 years, and then final piece there with Inter Miami as somebody that really helped them start their academy, to then second team coach, to then first team coach, assistant coach, and get fired from there after 2.5 years. That was the moment where I did a lot of soul searching about walking away from the game completely. It is extremely difficult because unfortunately or fortunately, the game and the sport becomes a huge part of your identity. And I don't think that's really fair. Because I think a lot of us, and I certainly think that I do, have a lot more to offer than just my contributions to the sport, and think that I'm a lot more than that. But ultimately, that it does just become a massive part of who you feel you are. And the other thing is that since 1996, I've been involved in Major League Soccer. So that's coming on, 30 years now. That's a lot of experience and a lot of history and a lot of learnings that you feel like you should be able to pass on in a meaningful way and contribute to others that are coming up and through the game right now. And so it begins to become it was a really difficult thing to think about not lending that knowledge or trying to help in a meaningful way going forward and stepping into another career. So ultimately, I can't be any more thankful than I am for, at that time was Scott Grace and Dave Blitzer and John Kimball in bringing me back to Real Salt Lake. And I do feel like I've had some really meaningful contributions to the club at all the different levels now, and hopefully and will continue to do that for a long time to come.
I want to stay here for a minute, and I'm going to send you this piece, Jay. I want you to read it because he reminds me of you. You're both about 60, right? Is that about correct?
I thought you were going to say we were both sort of short compared to our opponents and teammates.
Now, see, that's low-hanging fruit. It's like when people make fun of Trey because he's short. Like, come on, get creative. But honestly, I want you to read this because it talks about the transition from player to coach to broadcaster, and he's been in pro basketball forever. What was your hardest transition? Was it player to coach? Was it coach to front office? I mean, throughout the course of your soccer journey, what's been the hardest transition?
That's easy. That was player to coach, without a shadow of a doubt. That not so much from like a perspective of, oh, I miss playing so much, to just the perspective of, wow, this is really, really difficult. Uh, I had always looked at the head coach of the teams that I've played for and thought, man, that's an easy job. What a great job that would be. Gets to play a lot of golf in the afternoons, gets to spend time with his family, show up maybe an hour or 2 hours before the training session and leave shortly thereafter, and come to find out it was nothing like that. And certainly the way that we wanted to approach the RSL and how much improvement we felt needed to be made there. We were, every minute of every day, if we weren't on the training field or preparing for a training session or reviewing a training session, we were looking at opponents and players to bolster the team. So that was a 19-hour a day job, and I had a young family, and that transition was incredibly difficult for me.
See, I have like 10 more things I could ask you, but I'm sure anyone who hasn't read this is like, what are you talking about? I just think you guys are really, really similar. I'll send this to you, but let's move on for the sake of the conversation and the time left.
Well, I
What
would
is?
like to say that thank you for the compliment. It sounds like it's a compliment, Spence. I
It is.
appreciate
It
that.
is a compliment. I think he's as good as there is in pro basketball, and obviously you're a guy who's been a mentor to me, and I think a lot of people look up to you as a leader. So, but anyway, what's your favorite Rocky Mountain Cup memory over the years, Jay?
Oh gosh, had to have been one of the very first ones. One of the very first ones when we won there on their field in like a last minute situation, because I think that also may have taken us to our first playoffs. If I'm not incorrect there. And it was a last minute goal by Euro Mosisian that put us in the playoffs, and just the feeling of that, the elation of that. It was at their stadium. I remember the celebrations around that. I'm sure Kyle Beckerman probably overdid it a little bit as he was a former Colorado player, but fun to be a part of that. Fun to go back to the hotel and have a little bit of a celebration with all the guys.
Here and the Rocky Mountain Cup, that the Colorado Rapids are the rival of Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, I think they always have been and always will be the rivals and I think it's a different sort of rivalry, because when I think about rivalries and some of the most meaningful and impactful rivalries across sports, those things are born about because of really incredibly meaningful games, right? The Galaxy, for instance, obviously beating them in the MLS Cup in 2009, but then it seemed like for the next 3 years we were facing them every single year in playoff knockout situations. The same thing with Seattle. So those really meaningful games whereby one team goes on and feels glory and the other team goes home and the season's over. I think those sorts of things create rivalries. I would say that, it hasn't always been that Colorado and Real Salt Lake are flying in the table and are playing meaningful games. I don't know that we've ever actually played them in a playoff, as a matter of fact. But the rivalry is there just because of I think the fans have done an amazing job to create that rivalry, in which, and we all know how important the fans are to our performances. So I think they did a really good job starting that and festering that, and, traveling to, we had a huge contingent of Colorado fans at our last game here, and we have a great fan group that goes to every Colorado game. So there's always some extra emotion involved in that, and I think that's great.
Do you think, excuse me, do you think the players feel it too? Because it's interesting. It's such a transient league in a way, and so many of these players aren't even from the United States. So, they don't really have a frame of reference for what it means. Pablo obviously does. I mean, hell, he almost punched my dad in the face once upon a time. But
That was my second favorite memory.
we can leave that to the side. Big Dave is in town. So, do you think the players understand the nature of this rivalry?
I do, Spence. And actually, it was interesting because before the last game that we played, that was last weekend, I guess, feels like it was a year ago. Pablo put together, or had the video group put together a little video montage of what the Rocky Mountain Cup is for our new players. Any of the new players that comes from an international place, they all know what rivalries are. They've all been a part of what they call derbies in other countries, and so it's certainly not foreign to them at all.
So let's move over to the performance. Another set piece goal allowed to start. But we had Pablo yesterday, and he was very pleased with the response. And it felt like, Jay, another one of those games where you scored 2, but you could have scored 5 or 6. And once Colorado took the lead, I felt like the group really responded. Tell me what you liked the most.
I think for sure it's that. It never felt like one of those games where they score the goal and everybody hangs their head and there's a 5 or 10 minute spell of poor play. I thought the reactions, it wasn't like it was a big positive reaction. It was just like no reaction at all. And so I think the team was just kind of on that day knew that we're going to win this game. We're going to have a good performance here. We're going to put things together and we're going to win the game. I also felt that way up in the stands. So I think that's a really positive thing because as we know, that's not always an easy thing, and historically hasn't been an easy thing for teams to do in the past couple of years, for Real Salt Lake teams to do. So it's another sign of growth for me that I think will be really critical as we move forward towards the second half of the season.
It's interesting you say that because certainly I'm not involved with the club at all, and as somebody who just covers the team and likes to go to games and watch games, once upon a time, even a 1-0 deficit felt like it was going to be difficult. And now, Colorado goes up early, and I'm kind of like, it's all right. We got this. Why do you think we're kind of having that feeling around this club this year?
Well, I think the answer is probably really simple, right, Spence? I mean, we talked about the end of last season. One of our biggest deficits, our biggest problems is we just couldn't create quality goal-scoring chances. We just weren't creating many. So you go down 1-0 and think, man, this is going to be really difficult because we can't score any goals. Whereas this year, I think our XG is number 1 in the league. We're creating a higher number of quality chances than I think than if it's not almost every team, it's every team in the league. So you just kind of go into these games and you think, well, we're going to score 2, no problem. And like you said, we probably should have scored 4.
So I wanted to ask you, so the Diego news comes down right before kick. And, of course, we are, 5 days away from Mauricio Pochettino announcing the U.S. men's national team roster. I wonder, and obviously keep to yourself what you have to keep to yourself, but I wonder with the timing of this injury, not just missing the Colorado game, but such a massive opportunity for Diego potentially on the horizon, when you hear the news that he picked up whatever he picked up, whenever he picked it up, because of the timing on the calendar, is this something where you need to call the national team, whoever, and say, look, we're dealing with this and we're going to put him through the process. We'll share the medicals with you. And, do they have an influence on whether or not Diego plays because of what is potentially ahead for him in the next 5 days?
Well, ultimately, the second part of your question there, do they have an influence on whether or not he plays? That answer is no. And rightfully so. National teams should never dictate to the clubs how we're going to utilize our own players. Now, the first part of your question about communication with them, yes, absolutely. We want to be extremely proactive with them to explain what exactly the situation is here, to explain it to everybody. The cleanest and simplest way to say this is that we were in a playoff situation right now. If we're playing a playoff game or a cup game, we probably would have pushed to have Diego play in that last game and in the next one. But because we are not, and because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a player, we are going to handle everything with an extreme amount of caution to try to make sure that we, ultimately that nothing that we do or decisions that we make or to push Diego to play could have any influence on his ability to make this World Cup roster. So we are just handling things with extreme caution.
Can you share his status, how he's doing, and whether or not we expect to see him this weekend?
He's doing very well. He has been in full training, but we are, again, making decisions that will be precautionary for his benefit right now.
Do you have a sense whether or not we're going to hear his name called next week?
I wish I did, Spence. Every bone in my body tells me that he should make this team, and I certainly want it so badly for him. personally for him because I've grown to be pretty close to him and really like him and what he's about. So I'm extremely hopeful for him, and wish that I had some more inclination. I have been nothing short of surprised and shocked at how little contact we have had with U.S. soccer over a lot of these things lately.
Huh. Interesting. I would follow up, but why don't we just leave that there? I think you said what you needed to say. Let me ask you about this late push for Gozo. There's a video circulating, Dax McCarty on, I think it's the Apple TV 360 show, basically saying it should be a no-brainer. Just go even though he hasn't been with this group, you got to look around at the players who are in form right now. And look, I'm not going to tell you I'm watching every MLS game every weekend, but Dax is like, he's no longer like, hey, this is a young rising star. No, he is here. He has arrived. He is a superstar. Do you think based off the form that Gozo is in, Pochettino should give him a look?
Again, I think when you look at there's been so many stories like this in World Cups prior where a player just catches fire at the exact right moment and then is selected to represent his team at the biggest tournament in the world, and all just to do with timing and form. I don't think there's any reason, again, why he wouldn't be included. Where that's just soccer, right? I mean, players go through good form and bad form, and he's caught fire in a bottle here. So, I would think he would get every single consideration out there. It's always difficult because you don't never think about, well, who would that mean goes out, and only when you're on the inside of these decisions do you actually have to consider those things. Okay, yes, Gozo's been amazing. Yes, he's a rising star. Yes, he should be on our World Cup team next year. Yes, wouldn't that be great to get him this experience this year? But who does it mean that we would have to leave out in order to make that decision? That would make it difficult. That would be the only difficult part, because otherwise you would absolutely take him.
So I've been wildly impressed, and it's hard not to be impressed with Sergei Solans, who scored just another dynamite header. You referenced the pace a few weeks back, so I've been kind of making it a point to watch when he's at full sprint, and he's super fast. He can score with his head, obviously. He can score with his feet. I mean, just a complete striker. And, there's always this narrative around the ecosystem of soccer here in America that maybe college soccer isn't necessarily the way to go to prepare yourself for MLS. But it appears you guys found a real diamond in the rough. And, obviously we all thought Olatunji was going to be the first choice 9, but I think Sergei has kind of taken that job by the throat, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been nothing short of absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. Really, really pleased with him from day one in preseason. I was projecting that he would be the starting striker for us. He has all of the qualities necessary to be an elite striker in our league. He holds the ball up well. He has strength when he plays with his back to goal. He combines well. I think he utilizes his first touch really well. He moves well in the box. Obviously good with his head. We do have to say that there's probably one thing that he could and should improve on is just probably his finishing of chances. Because I think if he was at a truly elite level, which I have no doubt he will be, he probably would have 12 goals for us this year. So I'm a huge fan of his and couldn't be more thankful that we got him where we got him from. And I think we have to give credit where credit is due and say that this club has done an amazing job in the college draft over the past several years to bring in the likes of Emeka Anelli, Sergei Solans, Jesus Paredes have made contributions for our first team. Even a guy like Noel Kaliskin, who's one of our absolute standouts right now, is a player that played in college. And so we think there's real value in there. We just have to work to find it.
All right, Jay, before I set you loose, one more game prior to the break for the World Cup where MLS will take a couple of months off now. So tell me about Minnesota. Shout out former RSL center back Cameron Knowles as their head coach. You guys hit the road. What are you hoping to see prior to the break, Jay?
I want to see an improved away performance, Spence. I want to see us continuing to move to a place where we play longer amounts of games in a positive way. I still think that we are shy of playing anything close to 90 minutes really, really well. And so you want to see that as you continue to move through the season, because you know it's going to be critical when you're really starving for points towards the end of the season. So, and you also know that you've got to be able to do things on the road in order to have a real chance to win something. And that's been I will repeat what I said probably a couple of weeks ago. That's been one of the most rewarding things to be around right now, is that there's a real mentality in our group that yes, we're good, and yes, we're in a really good place, and yes, it's been a great beginning, but yes, all those things, and we know we need to improve, and we know that we can improve. So looking forward to it.
All right, Jay, thanks for the time, buddy. Safe travels, and we'll catch up soon.
You bet. Thanks for having me again. Bye-bye.
All right, Jason Kreis, president of soccer for RSL, the highest number of points in 22 years at this juncture. 13 games, same as 2024, but one more win. At 8-4-1, RSL is playing some really quality soccer. All right, we are live today with our friends at Wasatch Front Kia, Memorial Day tent sales event, 770 West Riverdale Road up here in Ogden. Come on by and say what's up. And my man, Arby, back on the show. What's up, dude? How are you?
Welcome back, brother. Welcome back.
Great to see you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I always love being up here. So just generally speaking, what do you want our listeners to know about what you're doing all weekend?
Man, it's our annual Memorial Day tennis sale. We pull out all stops. Our prices are slashed. We've got everything listed in the window. I've got cars as cheap as $2,000. I've got financing available, 0%, rebates up to like $12,000. The new Telluride Hybrid, man, it's just a party out here. We're having a good time.
I tell you what, every time I pass one of those Tellurides on the road, I'm like, what kind of car is that? I mean, that's like a high-end vehicle. Done a good job with that one.
It is, yeah. So Kia's actually won World Car of the Year several years in a row with that guy, and it seems there's no stopping them.
So one of the things I like about whenever I come up here, you've got high-end Tellurides, mom and dad, but if you've got a teen that's about to turn 16, you might bang up a car a little bit. You got options there as well.
Yes, we do. So we actually have more inventory under $10,000 than probably anybody up and down the northern Wasatch Front.
Very nice. Last thing, you referenced financing. Kind of touch on that process a little bit.
So we got lenders on hand here. All credit, bad credit, no credit, great credit, of course. We take care of every type of situation. So we're here. We're community built. We just want to help our people.
Arby, you're the man. We'll chat again, okay?
Thanks.
All right, come on by. It's the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event. 4 days, exceptional offers, more forward in a new Kia. Today they're giving away a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. All you have to do is come by and enter to win that. I'll give you a hint. If you come by and enter to win, you're going to have an excellent chance because I think I have 2 names in there. Okay, it's a high-value cooler. Tomorrow they're giving away a grill. On Saturday it's a big screen TV. On Monday it's $500 in cash. It is the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event at 770 West Riverdale Road here in Ogden. All right, coming up next, you will be enlightened, entertained, illuminated by the great Richard Smith, who drove up here. He's live on site. So if you want to meet Smitty, come on by and say what's up. Dave McMiniman, Craig Bolerjack, little sports court. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show. We'll say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. You're damn right. Richard Smitty Smith is back on the drive on a Thursday afternoon. Live today at Wasatch Front Kia for their Memorial Day tent sales event. Come on by and say hi at 801. That's their phone number. You can call them if you'd like, but 770 West Riverdale Road here in Ogden. Where are my Ogden people? You can enter to win a nice cooler. Tomorrow they're giving away a grill. Saturday it's a big screen TV. And then on Monday, $500 cash. There's a very large gorilla outside, not a real one, an inflatable one. And Richard Smith is live. Thank you for driving up here, buddy.
This is literally, Spence, the drive with Spence Checketts.
Yes, it is.
Because we both made the drive to get up here. This is great. This place is a great place, by the way. We've done this before a few times, and Wasatch Front Kia, and it's terrific. And I love just enough of a slight breeze where I'm looking at the gorilla out in front, and he's waving his arms to everybody. It looks like he's ready to attack some car that comes down the road.
It's a good kind of signal that you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's right.
Because nobody else has a massive gorilla out front that looks like Godzilla ready to get you.
Yeah.
So come on by and say what's up. Smitty live on site. All right, let's start with a random question for you. Did you by chance read, I called him Hunter Thompson earlier, Wright Thompson's piece on
read
Steve?
that. Yes, I did.
First of all, I mean, when Wright Thompson really digs in on a topic.
I thought it was a full book.
It's going to take you a minute to read, okay? Yeah. It took me a while this morning. It was recommended by a buddy. First of all, awesome piece. I wonder throughout the course of your career, I mean, look, I can remember the first fall where I wasn't playing basketball, and I was a kid, and I was like, oh, man, there's a real hole here. I have done this as long as I could remember, wanting to play as long as I could. So it talks about how Steve thought at the start of this year was it. Okay, he was going to retire, and Wright Thompson got access to him all year in preparation to kind of write this whole thing like, okay, the story of Steve Kerr as he steps aside as a coach. And essentially, it's a case study in how hard it is for lifers to walk away. Yep. And I can remember Greg Popovich always saying, like, hey, when he's done, I'm done, meaning Duncan.
Right.
He would point to Timmy and say, when he's done, I'm done. Then Duncan retires and he signs a 5-year extension. Throughout the course of your career in the NBA, you saw a lot of coaches walk away, Frank, Jerry, and then you walked away as well. When you read this, what kind of came to mind as you consider what it was like for you to have the first year of your life where you weren't in the league, or the Franks and the Jerrys and everyone you saw walk away?
Yeah, the first thing I thought of, Spence, and this happens to everybody who's involved in the day-to-day organization of a team, at least at the NBA level. We experience that every spring because only one team wins the championship, and only one team stays up all night and parties and whatever, and they're excited and all that kind of stuff, right? Everybody else, you either don't make the playoffs, or if you're in the playoffs, you're pounding away every day. You're game planning, you're scouting, you're doing player evaluation, you're involved in discussions for trades, you're looking at the draft, you're getting everything you're doing on a daily basis. You have a routine, you have the next thing I have to prepare for, and then when I get that done, then I got the next thing, and it seems like it's always endless. And especially in the playoffs, because when you're in the playoffs, you always expect we're going to do whatever it is we need to do to win, to keep playing, right? And so when you come to that last game and you lose it, and now the season is over, you come in the office the next day and you literally sit there and you stare at the wall and you go, well, now I don't have a game plan, I don't have a guy, I don't have anything that has to immediately get done today, and so now what do we do? And everybody experiences and talks about that void, because for so long during the season you were all focused on the next thing, and then all of a sudden it just stops like a brick wall, because you don't expect it to happen, because you expect you're going to win that game and keep going. And that void is interesting, because it's Spence, all the years that happened that I was involved with the Jazz, it was always the same. You okay, we're gonna, if we lose tonight, it's over tomorrow. We happened last year. I know what's going to happen, but you never learn from it. It's always the same internal emotional reaction. And reading that piece by Wright Thompson on Steve Kerr, I can understand and relate to it, from his perspective, because he's been doing this so long, and you just expect either that's going to continue or something else is going to jump in immediately that fills that void, and you just keep marching along to whatever the drummer is you're following. And when that doesn't, when that it changes and it knocks you kind of off balance, it can really throw you for a loop emotionally.
Was it hard for you? I mean, it's funny, like I can remember when my father, quote unquote, retired, meaning he still hasn't, because I don't think he's wired that way. I have a friend whose father recently retired, and we went and played golf with him, and I asked him how it is, and he says it's better than anything I ever expected.
Yeah.
I lost track of how many naps I'm taking during the day. But when you had your first late summer, early fall, where that wasn't a part of your life, was that difficult for you to deal with?
Well, it was for me, and primarily because two things. One, I had always had a job that I had to go to tomorrow since I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
So I had been working literally for over 50 years. It always had something that had to be done tomorrow. I had to plan for next week, whatever it was. And then this came upon, and part of it, where it jolts you, where you can, like if you're in a position like I was in, where it's not your call, it's somebody else's decision that you're not going to work anymore, And so when that happens, that's the thing that can knock you off a little bit, because emotionally and mentally you haven't been planning for that, and saying, okay, a year from now I'm like Kevin O'Connor. Kevin O'Connor pulled me in his office one day when we were working together and said, hey, just want to let you know, we're not making it public, but I'm going to retire a year from now. So we're going to put all the pieces in place or whatever and all this stuff. So Kevin was planning it and had the steps in place as he went along to be able to do it the way he wanted to. When you're able to do that, you've got some time emotionally and mentally to adjust to what that's going to be and what you can look forward to. When people are affected, when it's not their choice, it's a little bit different, because now you've got to scramble your mental process, And for me, it was fine because, I was near the age of going to be retiring shortly anyway, but it took me a while to adjust to the daily schedule of, I don't have anything in particular that needs to be done by Friday. I can do it on my own schedule. And now, Spence, the thing that I found for me is that I am really in the real world, generally speaking, I'm a lazy person. And I never knew that, because I was always working. I always had, sometimes, in college, like a lot of people, I had like 3 jobs and, always had to be somewhere and get something done and all that, because I had to, because I always had to get something planned out and what have you. But now that I don't have that, and now that I can kind of do my own thing, like I love sitting here and chatting with you on the radio. This has been great for me to be able to do this the last several years. It's something that I enjoy, that I look forward to. But otherwise, I'm able to do whatever the things, and that was an adjustment. When you're working all your life and that's all you knew, now you have to make that adjustment. But hey, Donnie Daniels, our great friend, who's a longtime college basketball coach, he and I walked out the door, so to speak, the same time frame. And like 3 months into it, Donnie, I said to him, hey, how's the retirement going? He goes, oh, this is the best thing ever. He goes, I get up in the morning. He goes, I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth. He goes, I don't know where I'm going to be at noon. I don't know what's going on. This is great. And so he adjusted to it a lot better and quicker than I did. But I'm totally ensconced in it now and really enjoying what what I'm doing. Linda and I do a lot of travel and stuff, but something like Steve Kerr, that's a big time decision because you really still feel you have some juice, but you also, in his world, has control of how he wants to handle it.
You know, what's interesting is the reality, Smitty, is the majority of people don't choose when it's time for them to go.
Yeah.
The majority of the people are told it's time for you to go.
Right.
The Kevin O'Connors or the Steve Kerrs of the world, they're the lucky ones,
yes.
right? Because they've earned the leverage or the built-in equity to tell their owners that it's time for me to go. I wonder, because I'm trying to think now, when Frank decided that it was time for him to step down, and of course Jerry was ready, and obviously that worked out for the Jazz. He came back and coached the women's team for a minute,
Yep.
the Stars for a minute.
Yep.
But you were as close to Frank as anybody, maybe outside of Scotty. What was it like for Frank the first fall where he wasn't the coach of the Jazz? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, he retired, stepped down from coaching the Jazz in early December.
Oh, that's right.
Of '88.
But again, when the fall rolls around and that's not your reality,
yeah,
I wonder what that was like.
But he still had, quote, a job because he was going to the office at the Delta Center as the team president. So he just shifted roles and still was, involved to the extent that he wanted to be involved and was in the room, for all the key meetings and all those kinds of things. So it was a little bit different from him in that regard. He was really looking forward to coaching the WNBA because he wanted to do something of intrinsic value that he thought could help. And in this particular case was trying to get the women's game off the ground and going in a more prominent spot on the United States sporting landscape. And so when they decided to make a coaching change early in the second year with the Utah Stars, they're struggling. Frank said, "Hey, I'll just do it." He goes, "Don't worry, don't worry, get someone else. I'll do it." And he jumped in, and he had a whole thing lined up, and he had notes, and he had stuff. We're going to start a library, and when we go on the road, one of my jobs, because I was an assistant coach with them at that time, he said, "Hey, one of your jobs is when we get on the road, we got to find some stuff that we want the women to take part in culturally. So we go to New York, we want to go to a Broadway show, or we want to go to a museum or something like that, and whatever.
Yeah.
We go to Memphis. If we're in Memphis, we're visiting the National Civil Rights Museum, whatever it was, on the road. And so he wanted to do something that really made an impact for the women's game, and but it only lasted the rest of that season. Then our third year, he only lasted, I think it was 6 games into the season, and he just couldn't deal with the referee thing. He was just, and he admitted, 100% that it's my deal, it's my shortcoming. I just can't deal with what the refs are seeing or not seeing and calling the game, and it's affecting me emotionally. And somebody else has to do this that can handle it better than I can, because he had just been worn down from all those years of the college and NBA refs. And then, even though he had taken a break of almost 10 years from coaching at that time, the WNBA refs, were affected him as well adversely. So his coaching stint wasn't that long in the women, but he really had his heart into it in terms of trying to get it to be a foundational piece of the WNBA.
What about Jerry? Now, Jerry, like Frank, it was mid-season because of the stuff with Darren.
Yep.
Any memories of how it was for Jerry to kind of just walk away? Or was he the type of the guy like, okay, we're moving on?
I'll tell you what, Jerry was great that way, even from game to game.
Okay.
Like we would have a tough game at night, come in the locker room and a tough 2-point loss or whatever, and he'd have the meeting with the team, and then the coaches would meet, separately after for a little bit, and but Jerry was always able to flip that emotional switch. Like with the guy that you saw on the sideline during the game was completely different from the guy who was in the locker room 20 minutes after a game, whether it was a big win or a tough loss. He dealt with it. He was able to shift gears quickly. It was funny. I remember I've told the story before, I think, but one time we were doing a TNT game. Mike Fratello was one of the broadcasts came in, wanted to meet with the coaches and get some notes and stuff for the broadcast. And he said, "Hey, now, how do you guys watch the film after the end of the game?" And Jerry and Phil were sitting there, and they said, "What do you mean watch the film?" "Well, like after the game, we come in and talk to the team, and then you guys come, and then do you watch like certain parts of the game, or does it depend how the game goes, or do you watch just the pick and roll coverage of the fourth quarter, or how do you, I'm just curious how you watch the film, after the game's over." And I remember Phil looked at him and said, "What do you mean watch the film?" He goes, like after the game, you have something to eat here, and you go to a film room or something. Phil goes, "We don't watch any film." And Mike Fratello goes, "No, what do you mean? You don't watch any film?" And Phil goes, "Mike, I was at the game. I watched the game. I know what happened, and we go home."
Yeah.
And Mike Fratello was stunned. He was like floored, like, "You go home?" And Jerry goes, "Well, what are you going to watch the film for? We know what happened, but we got it for tomorrow's practice, whatever. We don't have to watch a film, But a lot of coaches like Mike Fratello, they would be in a scenario like that. They would be in the office till like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, watching the film, trying to dissect every single play and everything so that they could prepare for the practice the next day. And, Jerry and Phil need to watch a film. We paying attention to it. We know what happened. So everybody's different that way. And Jerry was one who was great about flipping the switch on. Here we go. Flipping the switch off. He was the same way every day in practice. He was fine the half hour before practice started. Had the game plan, the practice plan, whatever, and it was no big deal. And as soon as you stepped over the line on the court, you were in business. And he was in full Jerry Sloan mode, and yelling and barking orders and whatever direction. And then when it ended, walk off the court, and we get in the truck and we go have lunch.
It's interesting because you have shared that story before, and I wonder if anyone would view that as an indictment, because it feels like that culture is like, no, you've got to stay up until the wee hours of the morning breaking down. I mean, look, Jerry can say, "Go look at my win-loss record" if you think it's an issue, right? Like the concept was proven. But I wonder if some coaches would wonder whether or not they should have been watching more film.
Well, look, the thing I always roll my eyes at, and again, I've never been in it, so I can never say personally, is whenever I hear football coaches talking about living in the office and how they never see their family, and and I always think, I've been through a lot of that, because for a lot of years I was the quote film guy, and I was the one breaking down film and watching and studying and doing all these things and doing the game preparation type stuff and all that. There's not that much. I mean, when you're saying, well, we live in the office, and a guy from Portland one year told me, "Oh yeah, I slept in the office 21 straight days in the middle of the season," and this is for a team at that time that Nick McMillan was coaching where they won 20 games.
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Dude, what are you doing in the?" "Well, we're working on stuff till 4 in the morning, but then I got to be back here at 7, and so it doesn't make sense to get in the car and go home. So I just put a cot down in the office." I said, "Man, I don't think it's that important." I said, when you are grinding on stuff 10 times over, you can't be learning new stuff.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the old Gary Briggs story I love to tell about Briggs. One time said to me, I left him a joke in the middle of the summer about being in the office, and he said, "Did you call me last night from the office at 8:30 on a Tuesday night in August?" And I said, joking with him, I said, "Briggsy, yeah, some of us are here working.
Yeah.
We're pounding away." And he said to me, without missing a beat, "Well, let me tell you, if you're in the office on a Tuesday night in the middle of August working, maybe the job's too tough for you." And I often thought, hey, yeah, no, you would be right. But I think about that when football guys say that they never leave the office all during the season. I go, it can't be that complicated.
Yeah.
It's got to be, you got to be pounding your head against the wall like you're trying to prove to somebody you're working harder than the next guy.
Yeah, and look, I want to be clear. I am a work-to-live guy. I'm not a live-to-work guy, right? Like, I enjoy my free time. I wish I had more control over my time. I'm not judging anyone. And the football guy culture, like, I roll my eyes a little bit too. Like, calm down. Okay, we get it. You grind. Congratulations. I did think about Witt a little bit reading Steve's piece, though.
Huh.
About, Kyle clearly not ready to walk away, even though he anticipated he would be ready at this point in his life. I just think it's an interesting case study on how these guys are wired.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, what you're doing, Spence, is all your life, if you're in that mold, you are you've got something that for you emotionally and mentally is some kind of a security blanket.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is
who I am.
What gives me some identity and all that kind of stuff. So at the time when it's either taken away from you or you choose to give it up, then there can be that part where you're thinking, man, what am I going to do without this?
Yeah.
I don't know what the next thing is, and that part is always the scary part, the part of the unknown. For
the sake of time, and this is I find this stuff really fascinating. I mean, there's only so many radio hits where we can break down A.J. DeBonce versus Darren Peterson, but for the sake of time, I will ask you one more question, and that is, we are almost virtually a month away from the draft. As somebody that was involved in all these processes, Jazz sitting at 2, what's going on right now? How are you prepping for what is going to be a massive decision for the future of this team?
Yeah, well, they've watched all the film. They've digested that by now.
Yeah.
So especially when you're picking 2, as we talked about before, Spence, they're also lining up any of the stuff that they think where they have to make sure they know what the draft is behind them, okay? Everybody's talking about DeBanza and Peterson, maybe Cam Boozer, but there are 4, 5, 6 players behind them supposedly in that lottery pecking order that could be potential players. So you're looking to see, is there any of those guys that we like also that maybe we have to start doing some maneuvering, some shifting around to maybe we can figure out a way to get 2 of the guys, and so to add to our group. And so they're doing that. They're calling other guys from other teams, they're checking, hey, what do you guys think about this? Have you heard that? And whatever. It's a big network. You have stuff up on your board, your big theater room with conversations with every team up to date so that you can have a feel for what other teams are thinking, what they may want to do. And you're just trying to make sure you've done all that homework so that when that time comes, you can make the best decision possible.
Smitty, you're the man. Yeah. Thanks for driving up here. I'm going to ask you to hand the headset over to my man Arby, okay? Richard Smith, want to let you know that you can stay at casinos in Wendover and get discounted golf rates. Resorts at Wendover Casino offer a series of tournaments open to the public, one-man scramble as well as two-man scrambles, couple scrambles, and a four-man scramble. The flagship event of the season is Wendover Casino Open two-man best ball on June the 18th and the 19th with a $2,000 team payout and a $25,000 hole-in-one prize and over $15,000 in added money. All right, we are live today with our friends at Wasatch Front Kia. It's their Memorial Day tent sales event. My man Arby stops by once again. What's up, dude? How are you?
Hanging out, man. Having a blast.
How long have you been doing this? You've been around for a minute, haven't you?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
That a guy.
Seasoned vet.
Yeah, you are. So what makes this event unique? Why is the call to action for listeners this weekend?
Because we just drop all our prices. Everybody's getting ready to have a good summer. We want to give everybody a good deal, get the party started early, get everybody going for the summer. So our prices, we just drop down crazy low. They're all marked in the windows, so someone just driving by and looking can see the tags. Low rates, tons of rebates. We have lenders on site, so we pull out all stops to make things happen on our tent sales.
Love it. We're giving away a cooler today. Come on by. It's a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. You can enter to win. We'll draw a name later on. All right, let's hone in on this Telluride. As we've talked about, it is a high-end vehicle. And as you referenced, it's won several awards over the past few years.
Yeah, most awarded car of all time. Won World Car of the Year 3 times in a row.
Wow.
Hard to do once, hard to do twice, and 3 times they almost didn't believe it. But it really, Kia hit the nail on the head with every aspect of it, from driver to passenger to technology, safety, the way it feels, the way it drives, its ruggedness and versatility. It's just a well put together ride.
We've got a 36-month lease for $469 per month with a little bit of cash due at signing. But for our listeners out there that might have a 15-year-old that's about to turn 16 or looking to send a kid to college with something that's durable and drivable, tell us about those options.
Yep, we're a small family store. We take care of the whole family. I've got first-time cars. I've got grandma cars. I've got commuter cars. I've got trucks, literally any type of car that anybody's after. we try to have it on hand. That way it's one-stop shopping. You don't have to go deal with a whole bunch of places. We give you all the options right here in Ogden.
Finally, tell us about financing options for folks that might be concerned about budgets.
Yes, so we have lenders on site. They're doing all sorts of deals. Normally probably wouldn't get approved, but because they know that we're investing so much into this weekend and all calls to have people come in, they're bending the rules a little bit and being a little bit more lenient with the rates.
Arby, you're the man. We'll chat again, okay?
Thanks, man.
Come on by. Ask for Arby. If he's not busy, he'll come take care. He's a good dude. 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. Come on by and say hi. Speaking of Memorial Day, you can also celebrate Memorial Day weekend at Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Don't miss incredible deals in every department, like a 50% bonus trade-in on all new 2026 inline golf clubs, all clearance apparel. Check them out at Uinta Golf PGA. That's your Uinta Golf PGA update. We'll catch a break. Dave McMenamin, NBA Daily Assist Style, coming up next on ESPN 700. The Western Conference Finals took an interesting turn last night. The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the San Antonio Spurs to deadlock that thing at one game apiece. Tonight, it is the turn of the Eastern Conference where the Knicks will try to go up 2-0 on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Great day to have our guy Dave McMiniman on the program on a Thursday. What's up, Dave? How are you?
I'm doing well, and since you do me the pleasure of having that intro song for my appearances, I have to tell you, I spent about 20 minutes today with Susie Essman.
Oh my
in
gosh!
the green room here in New York.
No way!
Just a delight.
Oh, that is she? Is she the same way off screen as she is on screen?
Just as sharp, but far less silver-tongued, and just but very sharp-witted. So just great. Very sweet woman. Was on set or ESPN studios to talk about the Knicks. Legit Knicks fan. Was talking to me about 70s Knicks trivia, and I was trying not to geek out about her co-star on Curb for 20 years.
That is awesome. I wonder, and you've been doing this long enough now, and you're also Hollywood yourself. But I wonder, have you ever had a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I am talking to this person?
I've had a couple. Usually it's more obscure, like, and this is sad that I can't remember. I was a big fan of the television show Mad Men, and the actor who played the guy who Don Draper's wife Betty gets married to, like her second husband. I was at some function and sitting at a table with him. We talked for like 30 minutes. That's the type of stuff. I'm like, this is really cool. Or like anyone on the 2001 Philadelphia 76ers, the team that was like that was my senior year of high school. That was the height of my NBA fandom before I was fortunate enough to cover the league. And I was at a game in Atlanta a couple of years ago, and I run into Jermaine Jones, who was the best player on that team. And, like, I was screaming my brain out to root for that guy on that team. Like, that's the type of stuff I think that gets me.
Love it. Hey, I would imagine you read Wright Thompson's piece on Steve Kerr, yeah?
I did. I was actually just speaking about it this afternoon with one of my colleagues who was in town. What a piece.
Yeah, I mean, that dude, when Wright decides to cook, I mean, he might be in a league of his own, due respect to other folks like you. But I wonder what your main takeaways were, because we just had Richard Smith on the show. He spent 40 years with the Jazz, and then he left a few years ago. We were talking about what it was like for Jerry to leave and Frank to leave. And, you know, he references Pop, and I can remember for a long time Greg Popovich would say, when he's done, I'm done. And he would point to Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
And then Duncan retires and Pop signs a 5-year extension. It's really interesting to consider what it's like for these guys to actually walk away and how much they're leaving on the table. It's not just basketball, as Steve said himself. It's just the entire ecosystem of being a part of NBA basketball. What were your takeaways from that piece?
Yeah, I mean, just some of the little details I absolutely adored. Like him talking about one of his tricks to remember what hotel room he's staying at whatever random cities he's staying in for the random day of the week, the random month, to try to remember the room number by jersey numbers of athletes that he grew up watching or idolizing. So, like, say you're staying in room 4022, you'll remember in your head as Sean Kemp, Emmitt Smith. I love that because I've done that myself sometimes to try to remember it. I love the detail about the fact that he has a rider, like much like a pop star would when you go to different hotels to have a concert. He has a game and a guaranteed bottle of tequila in every room that he's waiting for, not to fuel his drinking habit, but because it's his tradition to give that bottle of tequila to whatever coach on the staff had the best impact on the scouts, prepare them for the game as kind of like a mini reward or a trophy. I love that stuff. I love the way he talked about how he idolized Jeff Hornacek growing up, and he thought that was the guy. Like, if I could only play like Jeff Hornacek, and he remembers one practice where I assume he's either playing with the Cavs or the Bulls or the Spurs at that time, and he went out and just killed it because all day he was thinking about, hey, I'm going to go play at practice like Jeff Hornacek. Like, that type of stuff I thought was awesome. And then just the excellent reporting on the dynamics of the team. I was knocked over by the fact that Ray Thompson had this scene about early on in the year when things weren't going so well on the court for Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr taking the time to sit down and write Draymond a letter about how much he understands this is a tough time for your career, but you're still very important to us. But, I may have to make some decisions with rotation stuff because your plus-minus numbers aren't good. And Draymond Green never acknowledges the letter to Steve Kerr, yet they still have this functional relationship after all these years. Anyone listening, if you and I haven't already said enough about it yet, I invite everyone to go read it.
Yeah, the stuff about he and his wife I thought was really sweet, too. I thought that was really cool, that relationship. But I wonder if it made you think about LeBron at all, as LeBron is now facing this decision, because it's easy for all of us to say it's time for you to go. It's easy for all of us to say you've overstayed your welcome. But that's probably diminishing how hard it is for somebody whose entire life has been steeped in this ecosystem,
Absolutely. I certainly thought about that. And you think about LeBron told us this year that he wanted to give himself a couple hobbies because he's finally at least acknowledging the fact that he'll be stepping away from basketball at some point. And obviously golf has become his kind of obsession. He also told us, and he hasn't started yet, but he wants to learn how to play piano. Like, he is just starting to kind of flirt with the idea of life after basketball. And, that's why he did leave his official word walking away from the Lakers at the end of that second round exit that he just doesn't know yet. But all of our instinct is that he will return. But it could be the last season he's returning.
Off. But I was basically resolved like this. There's no way they're getting this done. Knicks go down 22 in the fourth. You know the deal. 44-11 the rest of the way. And essentially was like, all right, Harden, whoever you're guarding, it's his turn. What's the takeaway from New York from game one? And then on the other side, how do you kind of put that behind you if you're Cleveland?
Yeah, certainly I look to the success that Jalen Brunson had against James Harden in the fourth quarter and overtime is what changed that game. Now, 8 for 9 looks terrible. I would say that at least 3 of those buckets were extremely difficult, and you tip your hat. However, that's still, we're talking about 5 buckets basically in the final 8 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime, where the Cavs didn't really do much to scheme differently. When they finally did, of course, Landry Shamet bangs 2 3-pointers. And so it was just a confluence of terrible events for the Cavs, and it makes you worry that was their best shot to at least steal one. I don't think it's going to be a sweep or anything like that. I think it's going to be a long series, go 6 or 7, but to steal one of these first 2, because the Knicks, we would think, are now shaken off the rust after sitting for a week after sweeping the Sixers, certainly have the attention now because they recognize what the Cavs can do. And I would expect the Knicks will come out with a much stronger effort tonight. And the Cavs are going to be in a fight, and they're going to have to find ways to maybe muck up the game.
After having a really excellent seat to watch Donovan Mitchell start his career here and then grow throughout the course of his 5 years to being a guy who would have some really dynamic playoff games and then at times would go a little hero ball and oftentimes would kind of stall the entire thing. Donovan Mitchell, the playoff Donovan Mitchell is a really interesting conversation to me because he's like third all time in points per game in game one. But then there are stretches of the game where you're like, okay, where's he at? He had 26 through 3 and finished with 29. His last bucket came with like 10 minutes left in the fourth. What'd you see happen there with him?
Yeah, there was a play, I'd say about midway through the fourth quarter, where it was along the baseline, and it looked like he kind of got either he stepped on OG Anunoby's foot, or it was just kind of a weird body colliding situation. And so he didn't seem fully 100% since then. He denied post game that there was anything wrong with him. Kenny Atkinson was asked about him. And the Cavs coach also said that as far as he knows, he's fine. I'll say this: I interviewed him for a story that went up today on ESPN.com, just kind of looking at the Cavs rebuilding themselves as a championship contender from the LeBron days to now. And when we were talking, he was like, yeah, let's just sit down. So take with that what you will. That, to me, I was like, maybe it's a little bit of a clue that he's not 100% right with those legs right now. But he certainly was the reason they had that 22-point lead. You know, he led them in scoring, 29 points. He had 6 steals. He was turning a lot of those steals. He had a couple just straight strips, which was impressive. And obviously, getting in the passing lane and turning them into scoring opportunities. But you're right. I mean, his offense went kaput, but so did James Harden. And both those guys, if they don't play with pace and get the defense moving, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, for as talented and as big as they are, they need those guys to kind of create the action. The same thing with Sam Merrill, same thing with Max Strus. Like, if the Cavs aren't getting penetration and dynamic play from those two guards, they're a pretty mediocre team.
Are you on Jim Dolan's watch list? Do you feel nervous when you go into the Garden?
I don't think I've done anything yet to warrant that. I did years ago post a photo with Charles Oakley after I did a one-on-one interview with him at a Cavs game. So that might already put me in the blackball list for all I know. Any associates of Charles Oakley, you never know. But I think I'm okay. Okay.
All right. Fair enough. So last night, interesting stuff. And look, I love Stephon Castle. I mean, that dunk was Dave McMiniman type nasty back in the day. Yeah. But with no De'Aaron Fox and maybe no Dylan Harper, if Castle is going to be your primary ball handler, you got 20 turnovers in 2 games. And I know, they went with the Jordan McLaughlin kid. He came in and hit a couple of threes, but he had a pretty costly turnover down the stretch. Any update as far as what you're hearing with the availability of Dylan Harper or De'Aaron Fox? Without those two, even though Oklahoma City is without J-Dub, I don't know that San Antonio can do this, even though Wembanyama is Wembanyama.
Right. We had Michael C. Wright for ESPN report today that Harper, remains a situation that they're going to be seeing day to day as we go forward in the series. I would argue that he is a bigger loss for San Antonio than Jalen Williams is for the Thunder, because the Thunder have just had time to figure out life without Jalen Williams. They swept the Lakers without J-Dub in there. The Fox situation, because all of our reporting was that he was testing it out, trying to go into game 1. I would expect him to now say, hey, if it's not going to get any better, they need me now back home. So not based on speaking to anyone in San Antonio, just covering injury situations like this before, my instinct would say we'll see De'Aaron Fox when the series shifts to San Antonio. But I will say Mitch Johnson said, because it's a high ankle sprain, this is the situation that Fox will be dealing with most likely for the duration of the playoffs, whether that be just the rest of the Western Conference Finals or even if they can get past the defending champs and get to the finals. But as incredible as Game 1 was, I know you must have loved it, Spence, because any true hoophead that I spoke to the last couple of days was just raving about it. As great as that was, OKC did what they needed to do by making the series 1-1. And, honestly, the pressure's all back on the Spurs to get it done in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, like everybody else, I was captivated by Game 1. This is the series we've all wanted, and I hope it goes 7. I have no idea who I would pick. But before I say you loose, what did you make about Mark Dagnolt's adjustments between Game 1 and Game 2 as far as how to at least make Victor Wembanyama somewhat uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was impressed to see Isaiah Hartenstein bring the physicality, set the tone there. I think it was a little bit of some extracurricular activity, but nothing like going fully over the line where it's just completely dirty and dangerous. I know there was the play where it looked like he may have pulled Stephon Castle's hair. I watched that a few times. I'm not fully convinced that was intentional or just a tangle up. But certainly there are other times where he's grabbing the arms of Victor Wembanyama that was very intentional, and I don't think it crossed the threshold of being dirty. I thought it was, I'm going to set the standard of how I engage with my opponent possession by possession and kind of put it on the refs. Are you going to call every single thing? So be it. If you don't, I'm going to keep going up to this line. And I thought that was not only the decision to give him more time on Wemby was smart, but just the minutes that Hartenstein did with it. And then, you saw some of the trapping of Stephon Castle, much the way the Thunder was trapping SGA in game one. You saw more of that against Castle in game two. And there was some possessions where, he's getting a backcourt violation or he's stepping out of bounds near half court. They're not even getting a chance to even begin their offensive possession, let alone getting a shot on goal. They're not even looking at the goal because they're barely getting it past half court. And to me, those were huge plays, especially at Paycom Center OKC, because nothing quite gets that crowd going like their defense sinking their teeth in. And so, a really strong performance for the Spurs, but then you're like, they did a good job shutting down Wemby. And then I looked at his line this morning. It was something like 21-15, 5-5. And it's like, okay, well, you can only do so much against that guy.
Dave will set you loose. I'm extremely jealous that you were at the building I grew up learning NBA basketball. So enjoy the Garden. Have a good week and travel safe, okay?
Appreciate you, Spence.
All right, Dave McMenamin, he is covering Knicks Cavs. He covers the NBA for ESPN. Always appreciate his time, as it is Game 2 tonight at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, where the New York Knicks will look to take a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. Go to advancedwindows.com right now. Phone number is 801-850-9100. Here's the deal. If your house is cold in the winter, even though you have the heater turned up, if your house is hot in the summertime, even though you have the air conditioning jacked up, number one, you are hemorrhaging money. And number two, it's because of your windows, okay? And windows can be expensive to be replaced. But the good news is our friends at Advanced Window Products have their spring special going on right now. It's somewhat lovely today, and it's been somewhat chilly for May. But you know the deal around here. We're going to blink. It's going to be 105 degrees. So take advantage of the Advanced Window Spring Special now, where you can save $2,500 when you purchase 10 windows or more. Now, they've got a new deal that if you don't need more than 10 windows, they can prorate that discount for fewer than 10, which is a new thing they're doing, which is great. 40 years of winning windows, celebrating 40 years in business, proudly serving Utah homeowners since 1986. New season, new windows, big upgrade. Spring is here. Refresh, enhance, and beautify your home with brand new custom windows. Local manufacturing, a local Utah window and door manufacturing company selling directly to the public, so no middleman. You're saving a bunch of money there. Built right, installed right, a lifetime win. They build the windows, install the windows, and guarantee them for life. Lifetime warranty, serviced by a local Utah team. Labor, glass, and parts included. Easy financing options. Save now and pay later. Payments as low as $150 a month. So, again, spring window special at Advanced Window Products. Go to advancedwindows.com. Give them a call at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. 801-850-9100. Also, our good friends at IFA Country Stores. With IFA's Weed and Feed, you're going to grow strong, healthy, dark green turf without a weed in sight. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. Only at IFA.coop or one of our many Utah stores today. Now, we're live today at Wasatch Front Kia. It's 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. It's their annual Memorial Day weekend tent sale. We're here every year. I've been doing this, I don't know, man, maybe 10, 15 years. You can enter to win a cooler today, okay? The cooler is a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. If you come by, put your name in the box. We're going to draw a name before we leave at 6, and I'll just give you a hint. You got an excellent chance at winning because there are not a lot of names in that box right now. Where are my O-Town people? Stand up, Ogden. 770 West Riverdale Road here in Ogden. It is their Memorial Day weekend tent sale. You can enter to win a cooler, as I said, and more. Tents go up. Prices go down. Get up to $1,000 in trade-in assistance this week at Wasatch Front Kia. So come on by and say hello. Open the program today with our buddy Jason Christ from Real Salt Lake. Smitty rolled by live on site, which is always good. It was fun to catch up with Smitty. We're going to bring in Craig Bowlerjack coming up on the other side of a break. Then it's time for a little sports court with our friends at Handy and Handy. But my man Arby stops by once again. I didn't pull you away from a client, did I?
No.
Okay, good. Because that's number one. You got to make the sale. I'm not
Yeah.
that important.
I would leave you guys hanging. I'm sorry.
As you should, of
Yeah.
course. I would be mad at you if you didn't do that. All right. What makes the Memorial Day tent sale event that you guys do at Wasatch Front Kia different than just a regular day of business?
Well, we pull out all stops. We brought in tons of inventory. We got everything from $2,000 cars all the way up to, man, I got like $60,000 trucks. It's crazy that the price of these things these days. But we load up on inventory. We bring out the bankers. We've got low APRs. We got low rates, tons of rebates. Managers wheeling and dealing. Our prices are slashed. I mean, everything is under book right now. So definitely it makes it a fun weekend.
And as we always talk about, something for everyone. Something for mom, something for dad, something for the kids, something for grandma. I mean, you're a family shop.
Yes, one-stop shop we try to be. We've been in the community 65 years. We do it by having a little bit of everything for everybody.
I always like to ask you about financing. If there's a listener that's like, yeah, my kid needs a car, or I could use something new, but I don't have the budget right now. How can you help people out?
Super great rates, as low as 0% actually on some of these. Banks are here. They're helping everybody out. Bad credit, no credit. We take care of all kinds of situations. Our contracts with them are really awesome.
RB, you're the man. We'll chat again.
Appreciate you.
All right, come on by. It is the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sale event. 4 days, exceptional offers. You can move forward in a new Kia at 770 West Riverdale Road here in Ogden. Come on by. Enter to win a really nice cooler. Tomorrow they're giving away a grill. Saturday it's a big screen TV. Then on Monday, it's $500 cash. So it is Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sale event at 770 West Riverdale Road here in Ogden. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Craig Bullerjack is our guest. Coming up after a quick break right here on ESPN 700. All right, we're live today. Wasatch Front Kia, Memorial Day tent sale. We do it every year. 770 West Riverdale Road up here in Ogden. You can enter to win a Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. They've got a bunch of great vehicles priced to move, like the Telluride, the Sportage and such. But come on by and say what's up. 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. And we'll start the 4 o'clock hour of the program on a Thursday afternoon with a friend of the show, television voice of the Utah Jazz, Craig Bowler. Jack Bowler, happy Thursday, man. How we doing?
You too, man. How you doing?
I'm good. So we've been talking about this piece that Wright Thompson wrote on Steve Kerr today with our guests. And it was just such a fascinating – first of all, when Wright Thompson decides to – do the Wright Thompson thing. It's always a great read no matter what. It takes a long time to get through the whole thing. It's almost like reading a book. But essentially, Bowler, it talked about this process that Steve Kerr went through. And the initial idea is that Wright Thompson was going to get access to Steve Kerr all year long in preparation for what was going to be a retirement announcement at the end of this year. And as we know, Steve Kerr is coming back on a 2-year contract to coach the Warriors. To summarize it, to give you the Cliff's Notes, it just talks about how hard it is for anyone that has been involved in the pro sports or basketball ecosystem for a long time like you have to actually decide to walk away from the life that has defined you. I wonder what your thoughts are on how difficult that process can be for people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, does it drift through my mind? Sure. I mean, I love what I do, and so you kind of push, but you don't want to stay too long. And look at LeBron, same situation. Look at Aaron Rodgers, who just yesterday announced that this will be his final season. So, in the 2026, my first thought when I read the headline, Spence, was the 2-year deal may be that he and Curry walk together. They've been through so many things. They've had so many great moments. The window has slowly closed at Golden State unless there's a plan to retool for another couple of years of pushing in a very packed Western Conference, which should be discussed. The Jazz want to be a part of that discussion as well. But I think it's difficult for anyone to walk away from their job. You have to feel it. You have to know it. And something must have happened. Look, money can talk, but when's enough, right? And I'm not sure if the article dove into the contract. I didn't read all of it. I saw the headliners and read a paragraph or two, and then something else came up. But I tell you, Spence, it's intriguing, right? Look, you're going to walk, but you decide not to. You backpedal. And, some guys just continue to jump around and take offers in reality when maybe GMs, fans, and even teammates say, you know what, maybe it's time to go. I think James Harden is facing that. Kevin Durant is facing that. Chris Paul had kind of an ugly send-off, to be totally honest, for the career that he's had. So I think you have to really find balance in what you do, and you got to go with your gut. And he must have found something that made him stay.
Tell me what you've experienced, kind of like what you've seen from either peers of yours, like Smitty and I were talking about Frank, and then later Jerry, and players walk away, general managers walk away. Smitty told a great Kevin O'Connor story. Broadcasters walk away. As you've been around this thing, some of the friends that you have in the pro sports ecosystem, when they actually do decide that it is time, or what's more common, Craig, sadly, is you are told that it is time for you to go. That first season that rolls into reality and you're not part of it. What are some of the challenges you've seen people face?
Oh, I mean, you can go through every emotion you can imagine. I've got many friends who've stepped away. Some think too early, some forced out, as you just said. I think the greatest way to leave is on your own terms. That doesn't happen in most cases, but you hope you can read the room and decide when it's time to go. Jerry, I was with on that last little hump down the stretch run where I could tell, man, something's not right. And I don't know if he was not feeling well, but also, as it's been well documented, nothing new here, that D. Will and Jerry Sloan clashed, and it was the transference of what was to what is. And what I mean by that is old school coaching to a newer approach on how Darren was brought up, right, at Illinois, and what he expected to be as a pro. And, when coaches clash, players usually win, for at least a short time. And, you see Kidd and the separation there from Dallas. And, Spence, I tell you, you'll go through it. We all go through it where you just say, and I tell you, for me, I think it's when you lose interest and that you don't want to do the homework. You don't want to study. And, that's still a passion of mine. I love to know. I like to go inside. Locke's a different breed than I am. I love him. But, he's a more numbers guy. I like stories and, 5 and 7 game stretches. I like to see how a player is, going through the process of growth. And, everybody's different. Everybody prepares their games differently. And I've watched Mike Breen. He and I have had the same discussion. National level, calling some epic games of late. How can you leave that when you're handed, such incredible competition right now, and Tirico as well. That guy bounces everywhere, from Olympics to Derby coverage to Preakness. He's everywhere. And you have to respect that, but sooner or later the wear and tear, I think, is the other thing. How much mental fatigue, how does it wear on your body, and where are you physically, really mentally, the body and the mind. And, you got to make some big decisions on what's best for you and your family down the stretch.
I was thinking about this when we had Smitty on, because Smitty talked about Coach Sloan and how Jerry really was a different person in real life than he was on the sideline, and how his ability to kind of compartmentalize things and his ability to put a game or a practice behind him because he wanted to go home and see his family and he wanted to live his life. And I had a really kind of choice experience, very, very sweet experience, quite frankly, near the end of Jerry's life, where Tammy reached out to me a couple of times to attend games with them, before Jerry had passed. We went to a Jazz OKC playoff game. And, I don't know, and I want you to kind of expand on this, because I don't know how many people really know what a sweet guy he was. Because I witnessed I witnessed person after person, and I would stand back and watch. Because the way it would unfold is that somebody would look over and say, oh, my gosh, that's Jerry Sloan, and then debate whether or not they should approach him. Because if you don't know, you just see the guy on the sideline, you're like, wait, is he okay with me approaching him? And every time he was asked to take a picture or sign an autograph or shake a hand, he was a delight to everyone in public. Yes. And I think it's important to continue to acknowledge that, to kind of keep his memory alive the way it should be remembered,
Amen. Spence, look, he got worn out, as we said, and I think he knew in his heart that year it was time to go. It was best for him, best for the franchise. And you know what? You have to respect that. You want legacies like that to continue and continue and continue, because you just don't think of Jerry Sloan ever having a weakness, right? Because of the tough guy nature that he showed. And he played that way. He coached that way. And that's what fans saw. But I'm with you 1,000%. Traveling with him, sharing time with Jerry, he had a wicked sense of humor. He was very kind to everyone that approached him. I'd say at press conferences, he would stay until the last question was asked. There was no time limit on how long he would talk. And that was by his choice, Spence, by the way. PR didn't have to step in and say, Jerry, no, I'm staying. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? And then he would walk away and saunter away with you and have a great conversation. But, yeah, he did a lot for the community that people don't know. He was very elegant with people, but also shared his wealth with a lot of different things close to his heart. When Bobby passed away of cancer, he had to take a step back. But, he recovered, and Tammy was a great partner and kept an eye on Jerry in some regards. And, I had a great time Tammy allowed myself and our co-buddy Trav Henderson, who's now with Prime Video, doing games. We went out to see him one final time before he passed. And that, for me, was sad, but also did my heart good because, you see him as a true human. And when we talked about basketball and the moments that we all laughed about, the shot, Houston, Jordan, he came alive. The voice kind of came back as we knew Jerry as the gruff guy, bring your lunch pail to work. And, hell, these guys don't know what basketball is, and you just put on this persona. But, in reality, Spence, he was that type of player. He'd knock you down, get back up. They'd knock him down, and he'd just jump right back up and say, you got more? And that's what he built his reputation on. But in reality, he was the youngest of 10. He grew up incredibly poor, but he appreciated everything that he had, and he liked to share that. And I'd say that's a beautiful memory of Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, well said there. All right, let's move into the space. Watching these conference finals in both the West and the East, it's a reminder, Craig, of what spring basketball is like in the NBA. Meaningful basketball is the term that Stephen Curry likes to use a lot. How much of this, as you're watching, are you just kind of looking forward to next year and hoping that this time next year the Jazz are playing, quote, meaningful basketball?
Oh, Spence, this has been some epic hoop. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, what Donovan did in Detroit to push them into the Eastern Conference Finals was incredible. I mean, just the whole effort. And now they got a taste of the Knicks, and then we've seen, the bounce back by the Thunder against San Antonio. I mean, SGA named, back-to-back, MVP. And you could see last night the reason why. Leadership out the, when you look about who leads and what is a leader, I mean, did you catch the post game by chance on NBC or on ESPN? No, it was on NBC last night.
Yeah, NBC,
talked about Hartenstein getting the double-double and the defense that he had on Wemby. He wasn't real happy with Hartenstein's D. And, and they said, well, thanks for your honesty. And the guy basically, had 9 defensive rebounds and I thought played his tail off, against Wemby. But that's what leaders do. I mean, they still want more. They aren't satisfied. And he knows the road is long for another back-to-back championship. But this has been some great hoop. Pistons, have a very young team that's not going away. And the Knicks are on a mission themselves. And so it's great basketball. I mean, I'm in awe of it, to be honest with you. I know Mike Breen pretty well, and I just, I talked to him, and he's having a blast because of the competition level. I mean, how can you not want to be in that seat? And it goes back to what you asked me originally. When you have epic games and you have a team that wins, like what the Jazz did in the Hot Rod days, dominate at home especially, and then playoff bound, like you could check mark it, right, every year, 50-plus wins. And I think the Jazz, to your point, are on approach to realizing what it's going to be like to be back in the postseason. I got to be honest, the last 3 years have not been fun. They've been difficult, but I understand the process. And my job was to go out and just try to build up a young player, Sensabaugh, Filipowski, Collier, whomever they put on the floor, just to find the positives. But I can't imagine now sitting back in the chair with Big T and LG and just say, wow, we have one of the most dominant front lines. We've got youth and a combination of veterans building with youth and a coach who's actually going to be able to coach, and Spence, who will have so many options in his bag in the way of going big, small, fast, slow, off ball Keontae, on ball Keontae, the speed of Isaiah Collier. There's multiple things. The excitement level. Hey, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this number 2 pick, sorts itself out unless somebody else slips in and works a deal with Washington. I'm anxious to see how the cards are held by the Angels and Justin Zanuck and how all this works out, because you know what? It's intense, man. This number 2 pick's big. It'll be a 10 to 12 year, selection that's going to impact this franchise. into the early 1930s or 2030s. I mean, this is a big pick at number 2.
Buller, we do not want to go back to the 1930s. I don't think life was great back then.
I don't either.
So let's stay in the space of just look. I don't want to put unfair pressure. The fact of the matter is, what can either catapult a franchise forward or set a franchise back is swinging and missing when you have a generational opportunity. Whether it's getting the number 1 pick, if the Raiders take Jamarcus Russell, they quite frankly have never really been able to recover from blowing it on a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Or you hire the wrong coach, or you make the wrong trade, you spend too much money on the wrong free agent. This is a generational opportunity for Danny Ainge, Austin Ainge, Justin Zanuck, Ryan Smith, whoever's involved in this process to land on the right player at number 2 or make the right move on draft night to move up, move down, whatever it is. Just give me the latest that you're hearing or your thoughts on kind of where we're at as we're about 1 month away from the NBA draft.
Oh, Spence, I think it's everywhere. I don't think, in my opinion, I always have to just say from my chair, right? My observations are this. Look, Danny has a well-known record around the NBA of being a card player and not showing his hand. You can always laugh about don't want to play, blackjack, not blackjack, but 5-card stud with this guy. Wouldn't show any emotion whatsoever, and I think that's the way he'll play this. I mean, it could be the 11th hour where finally something swings. Is Washington too anxious? Do they want more than what the Jazz or any other team, Spence, willing to give for the number 1 pick? And is that pick AJ or is that pick Darren Peterson? Do you build around a guard or do you go with a wing forward that can obviously put the ball in the hole and be a disruptor in the paint as well? So I think they play this quiet. I think that this is one of those things that will work itself out. And if the price is too steep, look, the Jazz have been through hell and back the last 3 years. Let's call it what it is. And the fan base has stayed with them. They've watched growth, 1 year of ace, Filipowski 2, Keontae, obviously now going into his 4th season. Walker, despite the injury, has shown signs of just incredible defensive skills at the rim. Would you like to see him be more offensive-minded? Yeah, but who wouldn't want to see a big who could dominate like Wemby? That's a generational player. But, they put a lot of work into this team. And I just don't think you give away pieces at this point in time. Could be wrong. The Jazz do have assets, Spence, as you know, multiple firsts, multiple seconds. Could you package those? Is that enticing enough? Maybe. But I have a feeling that Washington would want a body or two, a player or two, a pretty high level, right, for that number 1 spot. And you have to wonder, what do the Jazz really want to do? They've invested in Keontae. Look his turnaround last year, Spence. You and I talked about it a lot. It's been remarkable of what Keontae's done with himself physically and mentally and as a leader for the team. And so you don't know if Darren Peterson disrupts that. He played beside him. The bench, in my opinion, too, what makes these 4 teams in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals dynamic? They're deep. Multiple options to go to. And the Jazz are trying to build that depth as well to give them every offensive and defensive ability they have, an advantage that Will Hardy can that he can use. And we're watching now Will into his 5th season, Spence. It's time for him to coach and just let him go do his thing with the players that Danny and Austin and Justin put in front of him.
So as you're watching, the tough part about watching Oklahoma City and San Antonio, and Bobby Marks, friend of the show, who's the ESPN front office insider, just wrote, he does this every year, where it's the future asset rankings in the NBA. It's not and the Jazz, by the way, are tier 1 because of what Danny and Austin have been able to do to stockpile draft assets with the Gobert and Mitchell trade and, their own picks and some future picks. So the Jazz aren't in a bad spot. But Oklahoma City and San Antonio are both very good and very young right now, and additionally have a bevy of first and second round picks in their back pocket, tradable first round picks, tradable second round picks, their own draft. So the point is this: Oklahoma City and San Antonio appear to be set up for the next 5 to 7 years. San Antonio maybe forever, because that dude is just so unique. As you're watching the Western Conference Finals, what do you think the Jazz need to do, whether it's this draft pick or the $15 million non-taxpayer exemption or future moves, to eventually be able to throw punches with those two? Because I think we all believe they're going to be able to throw punches with a lot of the teams in the West. But the West right now is Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and then there's a huge gap before whoever you decide is next.
Spence, to your question, I think there's two things that just instantly came to my mind. Is defense. Consistent, dedicate yourself to busting tail, and you go on the length of the floor. And that means what Will talked about, Keontae, be in basketball shape? Okay, cool. How about being 82 game shape and then being in playoff shape? That, to me, is going to be the difference maker for the Jazz, despite the talent they have and are building, is that they have to be dedicated, and that's been a sore spot, right? These last 3 seasons and beyond since Will took over. Can you play D for me? Can you actually put the effort? And I think when you see the likes of OKC and an undrafted Luguentz Dort go out and just cause havoc, and Caruso, come on, man, that guy is everywhere. And, you got to love the way he plays on both ends of the floor. Can you do that for me every night? You talk about spring basketball. It is different. As you know, we talked about this too. The 82-game schedule sometimes is a ho-hummer. But now when you get into the thick of it, it's real. It's time for those players to step up. So that would be my first. And then the other one would be the same scenario, is how deep can the Jazz build this roster and make Ryan happy financially, but yet if you lose a player, can you put the next guy in the slot and not lose much, if any? Now, look, you lose an all-star in Markkanen or Triple J, that hurts. That hurts any team. Think about SGA out and the Thunder. Okay, that would be devastating. But, how can you survive an injury of 2 weeks but yet stay in the flow and make it happen? I mean, I think those are the two things that pop up to me, and the Jazz are building towards both depth, but also I still think what Will Hardy will demand more and more as this team grows is you've got to play defense if you want to stay on this roster.
Bowler, final thing I'll set you loose. I don't have a lean in the West. I don't. I mean, OKC's got to go to San Antonio and get one after the Spurs were able to get a split. I think it's going to be tough for San Antonio if they don't have either of their primary ball handlers, namely De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper. And OKC looks like they're going to be without J-Dub. But any lean on who you think comes out of the West before I set you loose?
Man, I really thought OKC, just because they've been there, maybe it was a wake-up call to lose that first game, and Wemby was just so damn dominant. I mean, I was just in awe, Spence, in game one. He seemed to be a little bit more on the outlier. They pushed him out of the paint, and I thought they did a better job defensively. I still think the Thunder are the champs, and they have to be dethroned. But you're right. The next 2 games, they have to take at least one to keep to keep it a balance in the West. And the Cavaliers and the Knicks, I think the Knicks are on a mission. Jalen Brunson, man, they cut the heart out of Cleveland, man, in the fourth quarter and in overtime in that game. And you always say, and I say too, but if you're a 6-footer in this league, you know where I'm going, right? You got to be special.
Yep.
Jalen Brunson, man, can ball, and he is tough. He plays both ends, but he's also, like SGA, leadership just oozes from him. And if you need a bucket, that guy will give it to you. I'm impressed. It's going to be a heck of a finals. And if Donovan makes it, and Mobley and company and Jared Allen, so be it. But I think the Knicks are going to fight them tooth and nail. I see the Knicks, and I see a really tough series with the Thunder and the Spurs. That easily could go 7. And the overtime games, I think, are just kind of a Fed right now. Nobody wants to lose. They make big shots. They play D and they push it to the end. And whoever makes that last big shot, that could just push them over the top. It's amazing. I love it.
Bowler, you're the man. Appreciate the time today. Have an excellent weekend. Be safe. We'll chat soon, okay?
Hey, can I say one thing?
Of course.
Before I cut loose?
Yep.
I just want to say, and I just have to say this, I just want to give my best to Steve Johnson's family.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who recently passed away over at 700. He was so important for us building 1280 back in the day with Monson and myself. And Steve was a class guy, management. And we just lost him, I believe it was, 2 days ago, Spence? I know the office is probably not, is pretty solemn right now, but you knew him so well. And every time I came into the building to check on him, I know he's been ill for a long time, but just a terrific man. And I just wanted to send my best to his family and make sure people know the name. He's an important cog behind local radio and radio sports, and things would not be what it is today without him.
Well said. I wouldn't have got my show back without him, Bowler. So I'll echo your sentiment and say thank you for your words. Okay, be well. Thanks, Craig.
All right, thanks, pal.
All right, Craig Bowlerjack, TV voice of the Utah Jazz. Appreciate his time. We're live today at the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event. Good news, if you can't come by today, it's 4 days. Goes through Monday, May the 25th. And my guy Arby stops by once again. What's up, dude? How are you? I should probably turn your microphone up. I've done this before.
Yeah,
how are you, man?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay,
doing good, man. Prizes every day.
Yeah, good to see you. So, obviously, you guys are here all the time, but this is a special event. What makes this different than just day-to-day operations?
So we pull out all stops for this. Prices are listed. We bring the prices all the way down. We pull out tons of inventory. We've been on an inventory hunt, just trying to make things happen for this weekend, just to make sure we have a little bit of everything for everybody. Looking for a first-time car, looking for a retirement car, gifts, graduations, things like that. We try to have everything here. Banks on hand. Finances on hand. We're just hooking people up this weekend.
I know I've asked you this before, but a few years back, I started noticing these Tellurides, and I'm like, who makes those? It's you guys.
Yeah, Kia really has hit the nail on the head with that thing. It's won all sorts of awards, the most awarded vehicle in history. Won World Car of the Year a couple times, and they're really, really proud of it. They actually this year just brought out the facelift, and when they said they were going to do a facelift, I was like, how? What?
Yeah.
What can you make better?
Yeah.
And they did. They definitely improved it.
And you got good deals, right, on Tellurides right now?
Crazy deals, man. We got some as low as 0%. I've got leases in the low 300s, so trying to get these new Tellurides out there, hooking everybody up.
Let's underscore financing because, of course, everybody looking for a car would like a good deal and a fair price, and you guys can help them out.
Yeah, like I mentioned, we do have lenders on hand, so we're giving out all sorts of great rates. There's rebates, there's incentives. We got our dealer discounts, so the banks are making magic happen this weekend for us.
Arby, you're the man. Good to see you, okay?
Appreciate you.
All right, come on by. You can enter to win a cooler. And I'll just give you a hint. You got a great shot of winning if you come in at 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. That's 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. Our friend at Wasatch Front Kia. There's a gigantic monkey gorilla out front. Not a real one. That would be illegal. It is a blow-up. You can't miss it. ESPN 700 van is right out front. Come on in and say what's up. Would love to meet you. You can enter to win a brand new grill. Now, before we break, new client on the show. Well, not new, not super new as of now. You probably heard me talking about Game Day Men's Health. Had a couple of people reach out over social media this week asking for information. Here's the bottom line. We're about to turn our calendars to June, which means we're nearly halfway done, believe it or not, with the calendar year. Did you set a goal to get in shape, get back in shape, get in better shape? Well, I'd just ask you, how's it going? Hopefully it's going well, but if you're struggling with your progress, I can just tell you that I was in the same spot a couple of years ago when I set that goal, and after a couple of months of exercising and eating clean and doing everything I could, I just noticed that my progress wasn't what it would have been, if I was 25 years old, because I am not anymore. As you get older, it's harder to do. So I had a friend recommend Game Day Men's Health, asked if I'd ever supplemented testosterone before, which I had not. And the nice thing is they're giving you the very same deal they give me right now. So, number one, free consultation. So that's what I did. You should schedule that even if you don't plan on doing anything with Game Day Men's Health, because they can walk you through everything and it doesn't cost you a dime. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. That's Game Day Men's Health. They'll take a little bit of blood, then they're going to go over your levels with you, and they're going to recommend some products based off of where you might be deficient. For me, that was testosterone therapy, and then I utilized some of their peptides. They've got the weight loss stuff, semaglutide, tirzepatide, if you're in need of that as well. But here's the kicker. It's why it makes sense. They give me a deal that's 50% off your entire year membership. They're giving you the same. So it makes all these products like extremely affordable. Once upon a time, these were for rich people, celebrities, athletes. They're for you now at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. All right, coming up next, time for a little sports court. It's a Thursday. You know how we roll on a Thursday. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show, and we will say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. It is Sports Court time. We do it every Thursday, right about now, with our good friends Garrett, and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Gentlemen, happy Thursday. How we doing?
Hey, Spence, how you doing?
All good here. Appreciate the time today. So let's start with a story that we have covered from the minute it broke. It's the Brendan Sorsby situation, ruled ineligible, but has filed a lawsuit and talks about the gambling addiction as the kind of key portion here. Of course, Jeffrey Kessler is behind this messaging. What's the latest?
Yeah, so just the background for the listeners out there, Brendan Sorsby, he leaves Cincinnati. He's one of the hottest guys in the transfer portal. Cincinnati sues him for breach of contract for the NIL contract he has. So he gets to Texas Tech, big NIL contract there, and it comes out that he's got a real gambling problem. It's reported that he has bet on thousands and thousands of sporting events. The list of things crazy, like Turkish basketball games, just obscure things that he was betting on. But the important part was that he had bet on University of Indiana football games when he was a quarterback there. He was down on the depth chart. So he enters gambling rehab. And the NCAA is investigating. The NCAA has a rule that there's tiers of rules that if you bet on your own sport, you can be ruled ineligible indefinitely. So we get reported that he's hired Jeffrey Kessler, who's famously known for the House versus NCAA settlement and Michael Jordan's NASCAR antitrust case. No lawsuit has been filed, but now a lawsuit has been filed. They filed a lawsuit in a Texas court against the NCAA. So apparently, I think during this investigation, it hasn't been just explicitly reported, he has been ruled ineligible while the NCAA is investigating. And one of the claims that Kessler's group is saying is, hey, you're kind of delaying this, and that's resulting in, number one, a delay that he can't make a decision on really what his eligibility is, whether he wants to enter the NFL supplemental draft, and it's affecting his mental health. So now they're filing the lawsuit, and they're following the formula we've seen many times. First thing they do is they file a motion for a preliminary injunction, which essentially says, okay, we can go fight about all this stuff, but for now, court, we need you to rule on this that basically prevents the NCAA, enjoins them from claiming that he's ineligible. So the NCAA, another thing that Kessler's claiming is that they started this whole gambling rage. I don't think that's a good argument. I mean, the fact that people bet on sports is just a reality now, but the fact that someone is betting on their own sport is another thing. So Kessler says the NCAA will suffer no cognizable harm for letting Mr. Sorsby play football while this case proceeds to court. He also claims that one of the central arguments of his lawsuit against the NCAA is that there is no evidence he jeopardized the integrity or manipulated games he played in or gambled. One other interesting thing is he filed in a Texas court. You always try to find a forum that's really favorable to your argument. Well, lo and behold, the judge there, he's a Texas Tech grad and a Texas Tech law school grad, so he has recused himself for the simple reason that it might be viewed that he cannot be impartial in this case. So one thing, so there's a hearing set for June 1. They got that pushed up so things can be decided in, one way or the other. I anticipate that the court will grant an injunction because that's what they always do. They don't want the long-term problems, especially where they're going to fight about it down the road. I think what's interesting is whether, one of the arguments they're making is this is really a medical issue. This is a health, whether he broke his ankle or tore up his knee. He's got a mental condition that's preventing him from playing. So, I wonder if we're going to see him be ready for the season or maybe sit out a year under a medical red shirt, wait to be seen. If he can't play, is Texas Tech going to rescind his NIL contract? So our guy, Brandon Sorsby, is keeping the legal community really busy right now.
All right, Garrett, over to you. What do you got, bud?
Well, I think it's an interesting strategy, legal strategy anyway. I mean, he's certainly not denying that he's gambled on these things. In fact, he is straight up admitting it and really just saying, hey, but it was a victimless crime. I didn't, I didn't throw any games or there's no point shaving going on here. And he's really just asking for leniency, right? He's saying, I have a problem and I'd like some leniency, and it hasn't hurt anybody. So, yeah, grant the injunction, and then we'll figure it out.
Do you want to discuss more about the judge recusing himself, or are you satisfied and you want to move on?
No, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Someone else will
So,
be appointed.
yep. Okay, so we caught wind of the news that the SCORE Act had been pulled from the Congress floor. Help us understand what happened here.
Yeah, again, it has, right? I mean, it's just not getting anywhere. This is the SCORE Act, the Student Compensation and Opportunity Through Rights and Endorsements Act. And so this is legislation to finally address all these NIL rights, revenue sharing, athlete compensation, liability protections for schools, and regulation of agents. And one of the really significant things it would do, this would be a federal law, and so it would preempt state laws. And that's turning out to be one of the really big issues here with this legislation. So again, just a little bit of the legislative history. I mean, it was introduced in the House last July, kind of advanced through some committees, was scheduled for a floor vote, never made it. And so here we are again. So this is the second time in less than a year. And there was supposed to be a vote this week, but it was pulled from the schedule just on Monday night. So again, there's, a lot of, backdoor wrangling about this, trying to line up the votes on it. And obviously they don't have them. But really, yeah, one of the issues is this preemption issue with federal law. And, because once this SCORE Act, if it ever does get enacted, it's going to face some real legal hurdles. There will be litigation after that. And so maybe that's something they're trying to figure out here and looking into the future.
All right, Preston, you're up, bud.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that who's former U.S. Senator, I think he's really,
Ooh.
else should be an element of with that, but the current.
Preston, we are running into some phone issues, it sounds like. So, Garrett, yeah, I got you now. Yeah, you're good now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, Charlie Baker says this isn't sustainable, and I don't think that is a big shock to anyone. Alert the media, right? And he says, this is he says we need this in place just to have some, some predictability and something. So, this is something that you think that, is pretty bipartisan, that the two sides could come together on this. I think everyone wants predictability, but like Garrett said, it's just not getting legs and can't pass through. Maybe they're seeing that there'll be too many challenges to it. That's when legislative steps goes on. They have their attorneys look at it and say, "Will this pass muster down the road?" So they're not there yet.
All right, let's move over to this story where the NCAA will pay a $303 million settlement, to volunteer coaches for D1 teams. What's going on here?
Yeah, we talked about this some time ago, and what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these coaches on the sidelines at schools are volunteer coaches, and these coaches, their ambition is to be, a full-time staff member on teams and become coaches and move up the ranks and become, assistants and coordinators and maybe head coaches one day. I think everyone starts at a low level for the most part. Well, there was a rule by the NCAA that prohibited these volunteer coaches from actually getting paid. And that was for, 2019 to 2023. In 2023, that rule changed. And when that rule changed, a bunch of these volunteer coaches, they jumped in and they created a class and sued the NCAA. One of the things they were claiming was that, all this time, this prevented them from earning salaries and, getting increased salaries in coaching and that type of thing. And I thought it was interesting. The judge, he said that he thought there were challenges for their antitrust claim, whether they could actually win or not. But now we've learned that there's been a settlement between the parties. The NCAA, it looks like the settlement says $303 million. That's a lot of money. And it's going to be paid out. It's going to be determined by each of the schools depending on the tenure of the coach, the sport of the coach, different factors, the experience of the coach. And it looks like an average of $27,000 per coach. And it's reported that of that settlement, $90 million will go to the lawyers. They got to make a living too.
All right, Gary, you're up, bud.
Well, there's a little bit of precedent for this. Baseball coaches had their own separate case, volunteer baseball coaches, last year. It settled last year for $50 million. So, this case had a little bit of groundwork paved for them. And then for anybody out there, the deadline to submit a claim is June 2nd. So you better get on it if you're a volunteer coach.
There you go. Shout out to all the lawyers. Continue to make that living, guys. All right. NASCAR sued hundreds of anonymous defendants in China, right, that are selling pirated and counterfeit products. What's going on here?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is something we see a lot, right, where you've got these anonymous, essentially. I mean, that's how they filed this lawsuit. This is suit against hundreds of anonymous defendants in China who are selling these counterfeit products, right? So they're using the NASCAR marks, right, all the trademarks and copyrighted information. We're talking about caps and keychains and all kinds of stuff, right? Jackets and shirts and whatever. And so typically, a league like this or any company, right? There's some other processes they can follow. They can do these what are called takedown notices, right? And a lot of times a company is going to stop doing this once they've kind of been caught. But the problem here is these businesses, these sellers, they might shut down and reopen under a different name or in a different location. And so it's just really hard to pin them down. And so, kind of interesting here, I mean, to see what will actually happen. The lawsuit's filed in the Southern District of New York. And so just getting going. But, I mean, it's a big, a big case for them to pursue, but they're doing everything they can to protect their brand and their the bottom line ultimately.
All right, Preston, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, this has been going on for years in every sport, and I thought it was interesting that one of the lawyers indicated that if any of the defendants provide a complete and accurate address, they can't really identify the defendant, so they call this a John Doe lawsuit to protect intellectual property, where they don't really know where the defendant is. And I thought it was interesting. They called this whack-a-mole. They're going after one defendant, and maybe they track him down, and another whack-a-mole pops up in the hole, and it might be the exact same defendant, and they're trying to protect their brand and just whacking all these moles. And the interesting thing is, I think the consumer likes the chance to buy these things that are pretty good knockoffs, and they're a lot less expensive. But I think these licensing and everything in sports, they need to protect their brand.
All right, last one for today. And I've learned that Joey Chestnut not only eats hot dogs, he eats a lot of bologna. I did not know that. But this is about a case that was brought against him, a battery charge, and we have a resolution. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we had to do a stretch to get this on Sports Court. Is hot dog eating a sport? He's known for being the goat of hot dog eating. If nothing else, it is absolutely a competition, and this guy is known as the king of the hot dog eating contest. I don't know that he's ever lost. He's out of control. But this grows out of a situation where it was reported he drunkenly slapped a man in the face when someone kind of approached him to shake his hand. Now it's been resolved. He has entered a guilty plea to Class B misdemeanor battery charge resulting in bodily injury. Don't know if there's been a civil lawsuit, but he's been sentenced to 100 days probation. He can still travel outside the state, and he can still be in the July 4th hot dog eating contest that he's so famous for.
Well, thank God for that. Garrett, the final word is yours.
Well, this is true. Brendan Sorsby did bet on Joey Chestnut.
Way to bring it around.
For real. Bet on everything. Romanian soccer and Joey Chestnut.
We are living in a simulation. Life is not real. Gentlemen, for any of our listeners who have legal questions, how can they get a hold of you over at Handy and Handy?
Well, first I'd say don't ever bet against Joey Chestnut. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, we love coming on here, Spence, talking about these issues, legal issues in the world of sports. Everyone knows Handy and Handy is a personal injury law firm. We help people that have been involved in accidents, represent them, and take them through the process. Love to hear from you. Call us at 801-264-6677 or visit our website at handylawutah.com. You can learn all about us there and submit your questions.
All right, guys. Appreciate the time. Have an excellent weekend. And, of course, as always, go Utes.
Thanks, Ben. Go Utes.
Go Utes.
Our guys, Garrett and Preston Handy from the law firm of Handy and Handy. Before we catch the final hour of the show, my guy Arby stops by the program once again. It is the Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event. I've been coming up here for, 15 years or so. So, Arby, outside of just what you guys do day to day, why is this weekend the weekend to come buy a vehicle?
Because we've lowered the prices. We want to get summer started off to a pretty good start. You know, my kids got out of school today, actually.
Nice.
So getting out, prices are lowered, just hooking the community up. We've got banks here, just having a good time, man.
And we're talking top to bottom. Telluride, your top-end vehicles, all the way down to cars for a couple $1,000 for the 16-year-old that's going to bang it up anyway. Yeah?
Yep, we got some cash for clunkers. Some of them already have dents, so you don't have to worry about that. But, they're priced accordingly. A little bit of everything for everybody. So, yeah, like you mentioned, that Telluride, it's kind of top of the line. It's the big dog around this campus.
Before I say you lose, we got to hit it every segment. I'm sure there are listeners thinking, I need a new car, my wife needs a new car, maybe my mom or kid could use a new car, just don't have the cash right now. Talk about financing.
Got financing available for everybody, no matter the situation, bad credit, no credit, upside down in cars. First-time buyers, we literally have every program for everybody, and we're all ears. We're here to help.
Arby, you're the man.
Appreciate you guys.
Come on by and say what's up. It is the Kia Memorial Day tent sales event. My Ogden people love me some Ogden people. Everyone who knows me knows that I love Ogden. 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. Come by and say what's up. You can enter to win a really nice Lone Mountain 100 QT cooler. Tomorrow they're giving away a grill. On Saturday, it's a big screen TV. On Monday, it's $500 in cash. Our good friends up here, Wasatch Front Kia Memorial Day tent sales event. All right, before we catch a break, let's get you a little scoreboard update. You can celebrate Memorial Day weekend at Uinta Golf by Worldwide Golf. Don't miss incredible deals in every department, like 50% bonus trade-in on all new 2026 inline golf clubs, all clearance apparel as well. It's the Uinta Golf PGA Tour update. Uinta Golf, the PGA Tour this week is at the CG Cup Byron Nelson. And right now, Brooks Koepka is your leader at 8 under par. Brooks has been he's just been roping the golf ball. When that guy putts, he's right in the middle of it. They're at TPC Craig Ranch in McKinney, Texas. So Brooks at 8 under par. Taylor Moore actually just birdied 17, so he's at 8 under par as well. Emmanuel Grillo, Keith Mitchell, Siwoo Kim, Steven Yeager, as well as Michael Thor Bjornsson. I hope I nailed that one. 7 under par. So there you go, PGA Tour this week at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson at TPC Craig Ranch in McKinney, Texas. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Final hour of the program is next on ESPN 700. All right, final segment, wrapping it up here with our friends at Wasatch Front Kia, their Memorial Day tent sales event at 770 West Riverdale Road in Ogden. Come on by and say what's up. Always appreciate them having us up here. Before we say goodnight, let's give away a free round of golf. It's the ESPN 700 Festival of Tees powered by the Utah Golf Association. Each day, ESPN 700 is giving away rounds of golf to the best courses in the state. Listen to Sean from 11 to 2. Listen to me from 2 to 6 for your chance to win each day from ESPN 700. Details can be found on ESPN700sports.com. Text in now to 877-353-0700. That's 877-353-0700. We're going to send you to Glenmore. Really nice little track today. Text in, I don't know, tell me your favorite golfer. 877-353-0700. Porter will pick one lucky winner to go play Glenmore golf. Some sad news before we say goodnight. Kyle Busch has passed away at the age of 41. NASCAR icon. Not a lot of information other than he was hospitalized earlier in the day as a result of what's being characterized as a severe illness. Oh, man, poor guy. Very, very sad. 41 years old. Obviously, that is very, very young. All right, we have Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight between the Cavs and the Knicks. That game is about to get going at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. By the way, in case you missed it, obviously Vegas was able to beat the Utah Mammoth. We've got Canadians Hurricanes tonight in the NHL, but last night Vegas beat Colorado in Colorado 4-2. A couple third-period goals there. So the chase for Lord Stanley's Cup continues, so some NHL playoffs as well. All right, Porter, let's see. Oh, here's some interesting news. The Portland Trail Blazers have requested permission to meet with Jeff Van Gundy to potentially make Jeff their new head coach. Now, Orlando is also reportedly interested in Jeff Van Gundy, former friend of the show. Porter, it's too bad that he got a coaching job for us, but good for him.
Right. We'd love to have him on the program. It's been a while. Miss talking to our guy Jeff Van Gundy, but I'd like to see him coaching some hoops as a head man, and we'll see. We'll see if Portland can back up the Brinks truck. We've heard some conflicting things there.
Do you think Jeff would hire me as his lead assistant?
Absolutely. Why not?
I don't. It's because I've never been an NBA coach before, but I will inquire. And look, if a reality TV star can be president, I can be an assistant coach in the NBA.
Right. And hey, Portland might pay you $20,000 to do it. So
that's a good point. Well, as long as I have lifetime exemptions from being audited by the IRS, I think I'm good, dude. That's just me.
Do you?
I don't. Do the Knicks get it done tonight? Do the Knicks win? Okay.
Yes, I'm confident.
Okay.
I think not only the Knicks get it done, but I don't think it's as interesting as the last one, and I hope that's the case.
Okay, there you go. Porter, before we say goodnight, live at Wasatch Front Kia, what's coming up on a weekend, Friday edition of the show?
Friday edition of The Drive, out on site again. We're at Beer Bar tomorrow. Howard Beck stops by for your NBA Daily Assist. We're going to chat with our old friend Neil Smith. Of course, the Stanley Cup playoffs in full swing and in conference finals as well. Paul Pugmire will give us some PGA Tour latest, and we'll go from there on a Friday edition.
There you go. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Jason Kreis, Richard Smith, Dave McMiniman, and Craig Bowlerjack, and, of course, our friends from Handy and Handy. If you missed any of the sound from the program today, go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. That ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And then check out our podcast page entitled The Drive with Spence Checketts, available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments, and give us all the stars. It helps. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have an excellent Thursday evening, and we'll talk to you on a jam-packed Friday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.